Amanda,
Yep.
can you please mute and unmute me as necessary? I don't have any type of controls.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, and I believe we have all members of the Board of Trustees here, and it looks like we've got a number of members of the public and presenters for this evening. So everyone, thank you for bearing with us as we dealt with a little technical snafu this evening, but here it is at 7:05 p.m. on December 7th, 2021, and we'll call to order this meeting of the Town of Nederland Board of Trustees. Macy, if you would please call the roll.
Macy's not gonna be able to call the roll because I have to send her a request to unmute. So I got this. Mayor
Okay.
Larson.
Here.
Oh, look, there you are. Okay.
Should I do it?
Go for it.
Okay, Mayor Larson.
Here.
Trustee Taylor.
Here.
Trustee Apt.
Here.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Here.
Trustee Danforth.
Here.
And Trustee Corbelin.
Here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Macy, and thank you all for joining us this evening. We have 2 items on the consent agenda, the warrants and the previous meeting's minutes. Any trustees have questions, comments, or a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move adoption of the consent agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Please call the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Trustee Corbelin.
Yes.
And Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Macy. Consent agenda is passed unanimously. Moving on, we will enter into public comment on anything that is not on our agenda this evening. If any member of the public would like to speak on any matter that we're not addressing, now would be your chance. As usual, please catch our attention. Let us know your name and whether you're a town resident or not, and what you're thinking tonight.
I'm ready to go. It's
Please. Katrina.
Hawks, Nederland resident. Just wanted to remind everybody, because there's a lot of people listening, that it is Colorado Gives Day, and there are a handful of nonprofits on the Colorado Gives platform that would really love to get some last minute donations. You have until midnight.
Thank you, Katrina. Anyone else want to follow that timely reminder? Not seeing or hearing anyone else, we will move forward into the meat of our agenda, and it is an informational filled meeting for us this evening. Beginning, we have 5 of them, and beginning with the new town website.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Kasich. I am the administrative assistant for Town Hall. I was also the one that was doing the meat of the work on the new website, which just launched today. The old netherlandco.org URL will still work. It'll redirect to the new website. But this is a project that I believe we got a grant through SIPA, the Statewide Internet Portal Authority, I think sometime in 2020, but it had to go on hold for various reasons. And we were able to pick it up again this year. This is, I think, just going to be super helpful for our website. First of all, because we have the grant, which helps cover the cost of the website. It helps us move forward and become more in line with the the order for all government websites to be more accessible by, I think, 2024. And just overall, the website needed an overhaul. And I think that we have something good here, at least the start of something good. My hope is that it's a lot easier to navigate and find things and just be able to connect with residents and governments overall. Oh, thank you, Miranda. Yeah, this is what it looks like. It's just, I don't know, a little cleaner. There's the drop-down menu at the top will help people navigate if they want to do things like through the government, see any of our community projects, or if they're visiting, they can see what's going on around town or see some of the areas around. And yeah, just hopefully answer questions much quicker and easier than we have in the past. And yeah, just, I don't know. Let me know what you think. This is going to be an ongoing project, just as I get feedback from everyone. Website, what the best thing that can work for our town.
I just wanted to
go
take a
explore.
moment, yeah, and thank Peter. So when Peter first started and interviewed for the job, one question that was asked of me is, what's kind of the #1 priority for that administrative assistant role? And I said the website. And I think this has been a long goal of ours to get an updated website. And Peter has committed since day one to give us this just remarkable site that's really user-friendly, collaborated with all the departments as well as outside entities to give you what we have today. So I hope you'll all just join me in celebrating and thanking Peter for all his hard work on this amazing website.
Here, here. This is incredible work. Thank you so much, Peter. It looks magnificent.
Yeah.
I spent a while this afternoon poking around it, and it's so much easier to navigate the old one and find the things you're looking for. It's a great, great improvement.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the work. It looks good.
Very clean.
I have one question actually about it, because I did notice we moved from the netherlandco.org to townofnederland.colorado.gov domain. Is there at some point that going to affect our email addresses since we're all on the other email?
No, we're keeping our email addresses. We're keeping the Colorado or NetherlandCo.org domain, so people can still use that link, but it also allows us to keep our emails as well.
Okay, good. I was a little worried that we might drop those and have some confusion as we do a transition to new email addresses, but
we tried to make this. Yeah.
Yep, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we tried to make this as seamless and painless as possible, I think. Tried to, anyways.
And I was just going to add that, Peter worked with different teams to make sure even the documents were changed to have the correct URL to the new website. And so documents that you click on, you'll be able to see that it's connecting you to the correct pages. So tons of work on the back end too that you're not even seeing to make sure that all the documents are clean and ready to go.
Definitely a huge amount of work, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions for Peter about the new website?
Just have to echo, I'm impressed. It's a lot better to navigate and a lot easier access for folks who are looking for town codes and looking for how-tos. I like the how-to guides, so good job, guys.
All right. Again, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you. Take a well-earned break this evening.
Not yet. Peter's going to do text my gov.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're
you're
part of the next section. So don't crack the beer yet. All right, we'll move on to that next piece because this is another exciting new way for the town to help communicate with our residents.
Yeah, this is something that Miranda and I were discussing kind of at the same time as we started ramping up the website stuff, just with the goal of being in better communication with people and trying to make that as easy as possible while also making use of, technologies that, as a town, we just haven't for a while. And a lot of people want to be able to just like find information quickly. And this is just another avenue for that. We started using this a few months ago. There's multiple functions that TextMyGov has. And the first one, which was the easiest to set up, was the push notification. So people could sign up by just texting the word Nederland to our number. And they would be entered into a list where if, say, there was a road closure or a massive bike race going through town, I could push out an alert to people's phones to let them know, hey, here's how it's going to affect traffic, here's the times, things like that. But in the last week, we were able to set up the other two halves of that, where people can use TextMyGov to either find information by texting in keywords, and over the next week or two, I want to be able to put out like some guides through our website and social media that might help people find some things that they're looking for that way. And the last part of that is that people can now use that to report things to town, like if they see a down stop sign or if they have like a code complaint, they can quickly text that to us, send us pictures, and then that gets forwarded to the proper departments. So it's another way to communicate, and I think the cool part about this is that this is live 24/7 when town hall isn't. So if someone sees something in the middle of the night on a Saturday, they can get it to us quickly, and it'll just immediately go to who needs it. And as people are using that, and I've seen a lot of adoption over the weekend, I can monitor what words people are typing in the most, and I can change up our system to kind of reflect people's needs as time goes on.
That's awesome. And for the, if once you've signed up for the push notifications, you're kind of already signed up for the rest of it too, right? There's not extra steps.
Well, it's not, you don't really sign up for the other halves of it. You just, you text, and I don't remember our number off the top of my head, but I have it listed on the website, or, so you would just text, there it is, hi to that number there.
That's their demo.
Oh, that's their demo number? Okay.
I will get it though.
And then you can just access it. It's not something that anyone needs to sign up for. It's just that notification system where you just kind of opt into that part of it to get those push notifications.
It's like Everbridge, but not just emergency related. Like we could, to Peter's point, like when we know the road is going to be closed for a bike race, that's what we did this year. We were really testing it, was push that information out, which you wouldn't normally get unless you were actively checking maybe our website or Facebook. This allows us to really engage in real time with people to make sure that they're not missing things. And I think, as you all know, like social media moves so quickly. So this allows us a little bit more control there. But this is the phone number if anyone needs it. That's 970-601-4100. And if you text hi, like Peter said, then you'll kind of it'll start to orient you on how this program works.
But texting hi doesn't sign you up to get the push notifications. That's the extra step that's in the inset box, right?
Yeah, you have to text Nederland to this 91896. Yeah. So there's two separate things there basically. Yeah, so we're gonna see how this works out and see how people like it and kind of move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about this program with the push side. I'm really excited to see the two-way part happening now. I think it's a great way for people to be able to just report what they're seeing in their neighborhoods that might need addressing by Public Works or the police or things that need to get brought to the BOT's attention. I think this is really a wonderful new tool that improves communications, and that's always the goal, right? So thank you for bringing this forward and setting it up. Other trustees have questions for Peter or Miranda about the TextMyGov?
Yeah, Peter, this is Trustee Taylor. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate your skipping past the page that refers to artificial intelligence searches. Because, of course, there's no artificial intelligence at all involved in this program. It's a dendritic tree. But, yeah, I would suggest to the TextMyGov folks that they remove the artificial intelligence search reference
Yeah.
because that's going to turn off anybody who knows anything about software. So I almost stopped reading when I saw that.
You're
So
saying this point sets you off, this
Yeah,
extra piece?
that's just awful. And yeah, it's using very straightforward algorithms that I've used, so they can't be that intelligent. And but they're fine. They're fine. I still think it's a good idea, but yeah, they've just got to remove that, or they're going to lose all credibility with anybody who knows software.
We'll
So
pass the feedback back to them.
Pass that on. It's not artificial intelligence. It's a dendritic tree, and it's an inverted index over trigrams. But that's all fine. That's all fine. It still works. I think it's a great idea. They just need to fix that page. I do have a question, though.
Totally certain of that, can we? Couldn't there be some kind of sentiment analysis taking place? The frequency?
No possibility. Yeah.
All right.
So, Peter, how does the system respond to a request that it doesn't understand? Because undoubtedly that's going to happen.
So it will, if it contains something that's similar to a word that it already has, it'll offer up some options. But if there's absolutely nothing, it will automatically try to search our website and offer up any URLs that are close to that.
Okay.
And then it will also redirect you to go to the main part where it's like, here's your main options that you can do.
Okay. That sounds fine. Do we have a
If
lot
somebody
of
types in complete nonsense.
Then it's probably going to do that same thing where it's just going to try and search our website for nonsense.
Yeah, no, Peter, I recall correctly that if it struggles to understand what you're trying to say, eventually we'll say, we'd love to support you. Please call our town hall at, and then sends our phone number.
It doesn't say that yet, but
Okay.
that is something I'm going to add into it.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Miranda. I know after this meeting, I'm going to go text nonsense to that number and see what happens, see what it finds on our website. But
We'll see the reports tomorrow. We'll know
that's
it
right.
comes
See
from
all the
you.
trustees poking at it to see if see that dendritic tree behind the scenes. All right. Thank you again, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving right along to our third informational item is brought to us by our neighbors here at Eldora. And I know we've got Hunter Wright and Brent Tregaskis online to talk to us this evening and let us know some of what's going on up the mountain. Hunter, Brent, welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we're excited to be here tonight. Thanks for getting us onto the agenda, Miranda. And I know, Hunter kind of presented this couple weeks ago, and I think it went over so well. She presented it to the Netherlands Sustainability Advisory Board, of which she's on, and I think it was well received. And she goes, you should really talk about this at the Board of Trustees level, because some of you don't really know what we're doing and how serious we're taking, our community and the environment. So thanks for giving us a few minutes to talk, and we'll try to get through this as quick as we can so we don't run over. But my name is Brent Tregaskis. I'm the president and general manager. Hunter Wright is my executive assistant, and she's actually our sustainability manager at Eldora, a position that has only existed for about 3 or 4 years. But in those 3 or 4 years, we've just done a lot of good things. And, both of us have a long history in our prior lives of community support. And so she joined, I joined the Downtown Netherlands business, authority and was on that board for 5 years and was the chair for almost one of those. And Hunter joined the, Sustainability Advisory Board. She's also on the Zero Waste Subcommittee and very involved. So we're happy to kind of be a part of the community. Ever since we started not very far apart. She was probably the first person I hired And when we started talking about, the community at large, we realized that Nederland was small enough that we had thought we could actually do some good, as opposed to the greater Boulder area in a lot of things. So a lot of our donations and that have been focused on mountain communities and Nederland in particular, kind of had that hyper local view of helping the community. So with that, I just see most of you are probably aware, 18 months ago or whatever it's been, 20 months ago, when the COVID thing happened and everybody got shut down and things changed. Our company stepped up and opened a fund called the Play Forever Fund, and it really kicked us off in the right direction. And Hunter's going to speak a little more detail about that, and then I'll hit part of it, and Hunter's going to hit a part of it. But we really were able to help the community at large and donate some significant money to the food pantry and EFA and Teens Inc. and Wild Bear and on and on. So you'll get a little feel of the kind of things we did right when all that happened, when we felt that the need was the greatest. So Hunter's done a lot of the heavy lifting, and I'll let her take it from here.
So Miranda, do you want me to share my screen, or do you want to? How does this?
Yeah, I think we sent you the presentation.
Yep, I'm not sure we've lost Miranda, and Macy is muted because Miranda has to unmute her.
We usually use Zoom, so I'm not super familiar with WebEx outside of the Sustainability Advisory Board meetings.
No one is.
Macy's trying to show a text, I think, from Miranda. Do you not have the share button at the bottom of your screen, Hunter?
Oh, I do.
Okay, if you have the presentation and can share it, I think that would be great, and we can nail the new technical difficulties we're having.
You're the new host.
It still says Miranda is the host.
Oh no, it's gonna work.
But
looks like it'll work.
Yep.
Is it working?
It's working. Yep. So yeah, please go for it.
Okay. So I am just going to talk to you about our corporate responsibility commitment that we call Play Forever. Play Forever consists of two pillars: protecting the environment and supporting our community. So how do we protect the environment? We do this, Eldora does this through projects, engagement, and advocacy. All of our environmental efforts are focused on three priority issues: energy, waste, and land. Our priorities are energy efficiency, electrification, and expanding our renewable energy. We reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse. And we preserve the land and enhance mountain ecosystems through our forest restoration, wildlife habitat stewardship, and responsible water use. The way we support our community is we provide local relief, localized aid in times of need. We encourage participation as a welcoming place for all to participate in the adventure lifestyle. And we support organizations that take action to protect the environment.
Yeah, like I would just echo, we're supporting, Protect Our Winners is a good example, local Nederland or a local Boulder chapter that's worldwide, that's done a lot of good work. We're big fans of organizations like that, and the food bank and some things like that we'll go into more detail on.
I have a tiny nit that I'd like to just bring to your attention.
Yeah.
When I read the lower left of this, I saw energy wasteland. I would like to suggest just
yeah, those are all three different things.
Okay.
Exactly. I would just suggest reordering them. That's
okay. That's good feedback. Thank you. I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, thanks.
I'd like to say something really quick. We lost internet at work here at town, so Miranda is not with us right this moment. I switched to my hotspot, but she's not able to get back to us right this moment. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a new leader in Hunter. We don't care about Miranda anymore.
Okay, so let's talk about just some examples of how we're Eldora, some projects that we've done to protect the environment. So buy a pass, plant a tree, play forever. This is an initiative we launched in September of 2020, where every season pass sold from October 1st through October 31st, Eldora committed to plant a tree through onetreeplanted.org. We did this in partnership with Nokian Tires and also our partner resorts, Killington and Copper and Mount Bachelor. They also participated in this initiative. And so between those 4 resorts, we planted 50,000 trees. 17,000 of those trees were planted in Colorado, in Grand Mesa and the Gunnison Ranger District, to mitigate carbon emissions. Some of you may have participated in our first mountain cleanup, which was in 2019. It's in partnership with Subaru of America. We hosted this mountain cleanup where about 300 volunteers picked up over 4,000 pounds of trash and recyclables. We had to take a year off due to COVID. And then this year we did a mini cleanup where it was just our employees this summer. And we had 50 employees, and 50 employees picked up about 3,500 pounds of trash and recycle, if you can believe that. So these events put a much needed spotlight on the importance of proper waste removal and recycling in the places that we recreate. Forrest, yeah, any questions on that? Did you want to?
I would just echo that I would just say the reason we didn't include the public this year is Subaru had kind of had a policy nationwide not to do events due to COVID this year, but we hope to bring that back as a public event. So we just decided to do it anyway with our own group. Yeah. It was super successful.
And then forest stewardship. One example of our forest stewardship is in 2017, we cut new trails, Alpenhorn, Redtail, and Wolf Tongue. And the wood from that trail cutting was repurposed to build all of our tables and benches in the Timbers West Wing and Indian Peaks lodges. Also, we work with the U.S. Forest Service, Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forests, and the Boulder Ranger District. We have a comprehensive restoration plan that describes mitigation, revegetation measures, and best management practices that are employed before, during, and following construction activities for implementation of approved projects. We work really closely with Rhea. You all may know Rhea. And so we basically have her on speed dial. Anytime we have a project, she's always willing to assist. In 2018, we partnered with, through Excel Energy, we did a process efficiency audit. And we basically needed to find out what our baseline was in order to set goals. And we did this 2 ways. We did this through Excel Energy, the audit with Excel. And then we also worked with 3 Degrees that did a separate audit. And as a result of that audit, we were able to find out what our GHG is. And so we discovered that we kind of had an idea about this, but this just solidified our fears that 75% of our electricity, 75% of our carbon footprint is from electricity. 53% of this is from snowmaking and liftoffs. 28% is from mobile sources, including snowcats, light duty trucks, snow removal vehicles, snowmobiles, forklifts, Polaris Rangers, shuttle buses, vans, basically our entire vehicle fleet. And then 2% is from stationary combustion, which is boilers, burners, furnaces, ovens, fireplaces, any other equipment or machinery that combusts carbon-bearing fuels or waste streams. And so based on our audits, we did goal setting, which resulted in our climate action plan. One of the main goals as a result of our climate action plan is the migration to electric vehicle fleet. And we were able to start this migration in 2019 by investing $220,000 in 2 hybrid electric shuttles and 1 electric shuttle. And deploying these energy efficient vehicles, it reduced our fuel consumption by 1,264 gallons of diesel per season. And then just recently, in the last 2 weeks, we found out we received a grant for $90,000 for 10 dual port EV chargers through Charge Ahead Colorado and the Regional Air Quality Council. This is in relation to our parking lot expansion, which we had hoped that we would start this past summer, but because of COVID, our capital projects had been pushed a year. So we're actually installing, we're going to have 32 EV parking spaces, and that is going to be 16 dual port EV chargers. And we are beginning this project in the summer of 2022. So we're really excited about that. And so Brent is going to talk about a little bit about our community, how we're supporting the community, and our Play Forever Fund.
Yeah, so pretty exciting, to be in a position, even in a pandemic, where the parent company Powder that owns Eldora really stepped up and created a fund here in the worst of times, literally. And I think a big part of that, I don't know that everybody probably does not know, but John Cumming, who's the CEO of our company, went to CU, spent 4 years at CU and graduated from CU. He spent 2 of his years in Boulder and his last 2 years in Nederland, of all places. So he's a big mountain fan. He was on the CU club ski team, was a big climber, climbed a lot of the peaks in the backcountry and in Indian Peaks Wilderness area. So he has a real fond, soft part in his heart for Nederland and Eldora in particular. And that was part of his motivation for buying the place. What is it? I've been about 6 years ago. So pretty exciting to have somebody like that that gets it and kind of knows what net is and what we're not. And we really kind of was able to, put together enough money to help some of the nonprofits that we knew their income stream just really was affected. So we donated, $10,000 immediately to the food pantry, Nederland High School that lost a lot of their income that year, Canyon Cares that takes care of a lot of people that just don't have the means to pay their heat and food bills and rents. Wild Bear, we think is a great partner, and Teens Inc. And both those we're doing a new thing. We do a match challenge, which starts here any day, right, Hunter? I think on the 15th. And yeah, it's kind of if for every dollar that's raised through that, we match it and give those 2 organizations, or the 2 we picked for this coming year. And we also, donated $10,000 to the ski club that lost a lot of money during that period, as well as the EFA that you guys are very familiar with. So, so the donation match challenge kicks in here this month, and we have about a month to raise hopefully another 20-something thousand dollars like we did last year. And last year that went to the food pantry and EFA, which really helped a lot of people pay their bills and keep food on the table. So we also get involved in a lot of the stuff Wild Bear's doing and Farmers Market and food pantry, obviously. So we're definitely keeping our money primarily in the Nederland area. We did help with Meals on Wheels and some other COVID-related support off the mountain, but that was stuff that seemed to make sense for us and making sure people were not affected too negatively when they lost their jobs. And so we did some things down below as well. But as you can see, most of our focus is in the greater Nederland area. We did things like, masks through Ski Patrol to the community health hospital and whatnot. And then obviously Ignite, our adaptive ski school, is really near and dear to our heart. We donate over $200,000 a year to that program in in-kind services and basically free rent and all kinds of things. And we've actually really excited that we just got approval to build a 12,000 square foot building that will be a adaptive ski school on the bottom floor with an elevator going up to a 3rd floor that unloads right at the Easy and Caribou chairs. And Powder's funding about 80-90% of that building. We also gonna have a ski school component on the top floor, but the adaptive component is really the driver for this building, and I'm very excited about that going forward. So a lot of different things that we've got going in that world, and it's been really fun to have a little bit of fund money and the support from the parent company to support things in Nederland, as well as things like the adaptive ski school, which is a huge change from where we were not that long ago. So that's very exciting. So going to number 5.
So I'm just going to talk about how our departments bring Play Forever to life. So it's great to have all these goals, but how are we going to meet these goals? In peak season, we can have up to 600 employees, 16 different departments. And so it's really important to make sure that we're all on the same page. And the only consistent thing that we have through the season are our employees. And it's like hosting a new event every day. So, because we have different people and different guests. And so, I meet with each department head and ensure that each department has goals that roll up to both our climate action plan and then also Powder's corporate climate action plans. So the goal is for each department to do something every day to move towards achieving their department goals. So some of the goals are shared.
Go to the next page.
Okay. So these are just highlights. So some of them are environmental goals, lighting retrofits, our electricians working on that. Base ops is doing low flow toilet retrofits. Food and beverage, rather than having disposable cups, we have ball aluminum cups. This is really exciting. We invested in 50,000 ball aluminum cups. So come up and you can take them home. They're novelty cups that you can bring back.
Fully recyclable.
They're 100% recyclable. Funding alternative transportation. Brent's going to talk a little bit more about that when he's talking about our transportation plan coming up. Sustainable purchasing. Our marketing department is going to spend 5% of their budget on sustainably sourced swag. We put an energy meter on the Nordic building in hopes to prepare to get an idea of what that load is so we can do solar on our Nordic building in the future. Tracking and reducing idle hours on our groomers. 5 of our 7 groomers are high efficiency. So we've been working to move towards more efficient groomers over the past 5 years. As far as our community is concerned, Play Forever Fund, Brent talked about that. That's through the Boulder Community Foundation. We have our Play Forever Fund. Our donation match challenge this year, our donation match challenge is benefiting Teens Inc. and Wild Bear. And so I think Brent mentioned that starts December 15th and goes through January 15th. Although we don't want to compete with Colorado Gives Day, so please give today. You can always give in a couple weeks again. Our Play Forever Wednesdays, where we partner with a local organization and give a percentage of our lift ticket sales for that day to that organization. Approve for Good, which is our new donation software, where if you guys have a nonprofit that you would like Eldora to consider making a donation to, go to our website. It's under Play Forever and community, and you can either apply for an in-kind donation or a sponsorship. So please do that. We're working on employee paycheck donations to the Play Forever Fund. So our employees, our green team, they're involved in deciding what organizations we donate to. And so this would be creating an opportunity for them to be able to make a donation to the Play Forever Fund tax-free. Engagement, our Play Forever pledges, those are our department pledges that we were talking about, where each department has environmental and community goals. Our green team, which is basically a representative from each department. that donates at least 3 hours of their time for green team meetings. In the morning, our departments have their morning department meetings with staff. And every morning there's a safety, service, and sustainability talking point that each department head discusses with the staff. So sustainability is top of mind in addition to service and safety. Our waste diversion pop-ups. So these are games that we play on the deck of Timbers and West Wing, where guests can win fabulous prizes for recycling correctly. The PSI Women of Winter, that is the Professional Ski Instructor Association. We're hosting a training for women of color in February. So this is the first time we're doing this. So we're really excited about that. Climate advocacy. Each year we send at least 4 letters to representatives about advocating for climate change in our legislature. And then also we're updating our Play Forever signage and our recycle information. One of the really cool things, we're trying to make it easier for everybody to compost and recycle. And so this year, all of our food and beverage containers are compostable. So it's super easy. If you have bought something from Eldora that is food, it is compostable. So there's no like trying to figure out what goes where. So yeah, and then lastly, one highlight of all this is that we were recognized by the National Ski Area Association for our we're trying to integrate into the culture just awareness and advocacy within our employees every day. And so NSAA recognized Eldora's approach to implementing pro-sustainability practices within each of its operational departments, as well as carbon reduction efforts through partnerships with local utilities. So we are currently 22.5% renewable energy, and we did that through Excel's Renewable Connect, but we're also in the process of procuring additional renewable energy so we can meet our aligned goal with the town of Nederland to be 100% renewable energy by 2025. So, that's it for me. Brent's going to talk to us about some of our transportation initiatives for this season, unless anybody has any questions. Okay. All right, Brent.
Yeah, it's Chris, it's pretty exciting when you think about, you know, when I came here 6.5 or 7 years ago and first saw the Nederland 2020 vision, and we were doing not much of that yet, right? So we've come a long way in the last 6 years, and it's fun to see, you know, Hunter's really taken the ball and been on the Nederland, you know, board and tried to really help the whole community. So it's exciting to be able to do that stuff. So fun. So I'll, you know, we don't have to go through every single one of these in detail unless you want me to, but we've listed kind of a bunch of our transportation initiatives. You know, for years we've been renting the high school space, parking employees down there, paying for RTD tickets for employees in Boulder. Every weekend we give that, if someone will ride the RTD bus, we will fund that and pay for them to do so. The couple things that are new and exciting this year, we're increased our effort at the Justice Center down in Boulder so people can park their car at the Justice Center. We have 4 different times in the morning. It's like an hour after the RTD bus leaves because there's a 2-hour gap. We have a small shuttle. It only holds about 35 people, but we've worked it out, deal with VIA, and we pick people up in Boulder that park at the Justice Center on Saturday and Sunday. And when the Justice Center is not being used much because it's sitting there empty on a weekend. So that's turned out to be a really good thing. And new for this year, you know, since we don't have the Gercio field any longer, we have just signed a deal with Caribou Room and Peter to park employees there this year on Saturday and Sunday. And part of the reason for that was twofold, to get more employees to park their car. And I think what will end up happening, and we will see what the county, where the county ends up on this $10 charge that they have forced upon us for single occupancy vehicles. But we hope that a lot of the Nederland community will park at the Caribou Room and right up there, especially people that would be coming by themselves. And we'll be running constant shuttles from the Caribou Room on Saturday, Sundays. And we've worked out a deal to rent that parking lot from them. And we think we'll have enough room to at least we won't advertise it to the general public, but it'll be kind of more of a local initiative. And for those that may be out of the loop, as part of our expansion for our additional parking lot, the Boulder County is basically requiring us to start charging $10 a car for single occupancy vehicles that someone shows up by themselves. We direct them to what used to be called the North Lots, now called the Bear Lot, and we charge them $10. That money is not a money grab by us. It's something that was imposed upon us because of the county as part of our approval, and try to reduce the amount of traffic through Nederland. And I think it's going to be a successful program. The one thing I will mention is, because of COVID, the county and us are a little hesitant to start that this year. We are scheduled to start it on the 18th of December, but because you're penalizing people for not using public transportation or carpooling with someone else, and you've got a mask ordinance in place, I think they're a little hesitant to start that. So we'll find out in the next week if they're going to force us to do that this year. It may be that they pause, but we're in contact with the county constantly on these kinds of issues. And I think it will be long term, it'll be a really good thing, and hopefully reduce emissions and traffic through town. So that's one of the big ones that's new this year. That money's going to pay for all these other things that we're adding, additional shuttles from the Justice Center, and we're paying for people to ride RTD bus that don't have an eco pass. We pay that fare for them to come up. So there's a lot of things like that we're doing that we didn't used to do, but that's part of our whole initiative and trying to reduce traffic through Nederland. And so far this season we've been open for 3 weeks. It's been pretty slow, but that's because we haven't had any snow yet. So it's slow everywhere, but I think snow will happen and it'll get busy. We've all seen what happens when it snows and the impact and the traffic that happens through Nederland. But I really believe that this new parking lot that is almost 800 spaces, I think if we can park people fast enough, we should really have very few days that we have any traffic impact through town. And that's our ultimate goal, is to move that traffic through faster and get them parked, because we have quite a way. It's about 6 miles to town. So I think we got a pretty good setup to reduce the impacts of the community. So pretty excited about that. You can see on the list a couple of the other things that we're constantly in contact with RTD. I will echo that, like us, we're having a significant problem with staffing, and so is RTD. RTD has been really good in the last 2 or 3 years about adding a second or a third bus at busy times. They've already warned us that they're so hurting for staff that we may not have as much support as we have in the past, but that's a little bit of concern, that we may end up in some of those instances get one bus, and those people hopefully move over to the Justice Center and get up the next hour. We've added another, we do hire three, now we hire 3 sheriffs a weekend to help with traffic mitigation and any problems we might have at the ski area. So that's an additional person over what we've done in the past. And I really believe that this new parking lot will make a big difference. And I hope you understand it's not a money grab. I didn't even really want to charge for parking, but it's something the county required as part of the permit in getting us the additional spots that we think we need for the future. So I hope that kind of explains a lot of that. You can read that list, but I'm very excited about all the things we've been able to do. And, renting a place like the Caribou Room makes all the sense in the world. I hope a few of the locals will take us up on that and park down at the Caribou, which is kind of the perfect place. It's out of town, doesn't affect much, and we'll run some shuttles down there on a pretty regular basis. I mean, there'll be somebody every hour picking people up, and it should be a really good functional solution or part solution to some of the challenges we've had. So, I mean, it's fun to be able to report on something like this with this group. When I think back, 6.5 years ago, probably the first couple board of trustees meetings I went to, where the tone was a little different and our relationship was a little different, and it's been fun to have the resources and do the right thing for the community and for the environment. We're pretty excited about it. And thanks to Hunter, who's done a lot of the heavy lifting here to get us where we are. So.
Well, I just wanted to clarify about this single occupancy vehicle charge. It's only on the weekends.
Yes. So, it's not a midweek thing. I mean,
right.
Midweek, it's really a Saturday, Sunday thing. I mean, you guys many of you lived through our parking reservation thing last year. We decided not to do that again. That there was some good things, and due to COVID, when you had real restrictions, that made a lot of sense. But we don't have those same restrictions this year, so we decided, as the people at Powder said, do you want to be the only ski area in the country with a parking reservation for free parking? And I'm like, probably not, So we decided against that one. We've already been famous for parking and our parking challenges, and don't want to be more famous than we already are.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you, Brent. Thank you for everything you've done, not only, recently, but also just the work you've done to really improve that tone, as you say, the relationship between Eldora and the town of Nederland over the last 6.5 years. I think we're in such a better place now than we were back then. And a lot of that credit goes to you. It goes to you, Hunter, as well, for interacting with the town, being a part of our town, and really contributing. And really appreciate the update on what you guys are doing. Want to throw this open. Any trustees have questions for Brent or Hunter on what we've seen here?
I just want to thank them as well, and you've done a phenomenal job, and it's been great having a green neighbor, and thank you for loaning us Hunter for SAB. Much appreciated. Volunteer with Ignite, and your support of Ignite has been tremendous, so much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a good thing to do. We're hopefully making a difference on a lot of different levels.
Definitely.
So, Brent, I have a question that may or may not be, I mean, it's not really about Eldora as much as it's about Powder, the parent company, more generally. As you probably know, December 4th, we hit a record number of winter days without snow in Denver. Climate change is going to have an amazing effect on ski resorts. And you were talking about the letter advocacy, but I'm wondering if Powder is doing something more substantial. I wonder if Powder is perhaps lobbying Congresspeople in Washington, if they have a program to try to counter the pro-carbon lobbies. What kind of actions is Powder taking to try to deal with the larger problem, which could literally devastate your industry everywhere?
So I think you're absolutely right. And this is really driven by Powder. This wasn't just Brent and Hunter who came out and decided to do the right thing. Powder in general, John Cumming, who I mentioned went to CU and owns our company, literally is not a climate denier. He believes in climate change. We're seeing the impacts across our company. Every resort is trying to be 100% carbon neutral by 20. What is the number, Hunter? Our goal, if we could go 100% tomorrow and get away from the use of coal in what's driving, the mechanism for creating electricity, we would do that tomorrow at whatever cost it was. And I mean, yes, we went to 22% here a couple years ago with the help of Excel, but they don't have enough solar yet online to do it in any of our markets. So we're all struggling. And Hunter, Hunter's on a monthly or almost biweekly call on this at the company level, and we're taking it very serious. I mean, you're seeing it right now where I don't think we have 20% of the mountain open yet. And it's, December 7th or whatever it is. I mean, here
Absolutely.
we are. And we've had 2 or 3 really good years and good starts of late, but it does seem to me as an operator that it's getting harder and harder to open by Thanksgiving and ensure that we're open and with 100% of the hill by Christmas. And you're seeing things get more and more difficult. And we as a company are taking a lot of positive steps in any environment. If there's a way to convert more electricity by solar or wind, we're looking at those options in across the whole portfolio. I mean, you can't do that just on a nationwide thing, but Hunter can speak just a little bit more on some specifics.
So on a state level, we work, so Copper is our sister resort in Colorado, and we work, we're members of the Colorado Ski Country USA. Brent is actually a board member. And so the majority of our advocacy on a state level is through Colorado Ski Country USA. And then on the national level, through the National Ski Area Association, we advocate, or Powder is, the executive team of Powder is on a number of committees through the National Ski Area Association. And so, yes, Powder's lobbying. There are 7 different Powder resorts in the US and Canada. Each resort is expected to submit at least 4 letters of advocacy every season. And then they're very good about emailing us and saying, hey, this is what's going on in your area. This is what we want you to do. And so they're really great about calling us to action and kind of holding our hand through it. And, we get emails, to Brent's point, on a weekly basis on things that we can do. I mean, one of the first things that made me realize how important it was to Powder when I began is, we had recently pulled out of the Paris Climate Treaty, and Powder was like, no, we're still in. And so we signed the we're still in agreement, showing that regardless of what the current administration's not going to do, that we were going to continue to follow our climate action plan and advocate and fight.
So individual action is important, and that's what you're describing, Hunter. But I'm kind of curious, how many Powder lobbyists are talking to Joe Manchin?
Are talking to who?
Joe Manchin.
I don't know the
Powder
answer.
lobbyists. I mean, I'm just curious if you're actually taking. I mean, this is the U.S. and to make change in Washington with lobbyists, and I'm just wanting to make sure that you're on board with that.
Yeah,
I think we all object to lobbyists, but we also have to understand the reality of it. Just
right. That they,
Julian is a one-time registered lobbyist. Can't object to all lobbyists.
I don't object to you, Mayor, of course. Heaven forbid. But, okay, so I really appreciate everything that Powder is doing here, and I would just like to make sure that if there's any feedback to take back to Powder from the board, hopefully there are a sufficient number of lobbyists to counter, to some degree, the lobbyists that are talking to Joe Manchin now from the coal industry.
Yeah.
So
we need Powder. We need the Vail Corp, Powder, all of those to really ramp up their effort in DC to
absolutely
counter.
well, and they could be. It's just above my pay grade, and I don't know what they're doing. But I will find out and let you guys know as soon as I.
Just a note to
at the local level, we can try to encourage Excel to do better than they're proposing to do.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and we appreciate that because that's locally, that's one of the things that can make a big difference. I will just say it kind of goes back to what Hunter said. What we do is commit to writing 4 letters a year. That's what each one of our resorts is doing. I don't think we have a bunch of paid lobbyists that are just in Washington, D.C. representing Powder. That's something that the National Ski Area Association is doing. And certainly that we have an overwhelming number of resorts that are fighting climate change and believe it, because I mean, we're in a business that could go broke, you know, in 50 years, or pick a number, 20 years, 50 years, you know, 10 years, we don't know when. But I mean, I feel comfortable that we're at 9,200 feet, which is a lot better than a lot of resorts. And we're in a pretty good place in Nederland, and we're high enough, and it's usually cold enough to make snow. And I feel blessed that we're not at 6,000 feet and in the Midwest somewhere. So we're luckier than a lot of places. You know, we love NATA, we love the community, and want to do the right thing. So, but good point. We'll take that and get a little bit more aggressive in that regard. But we do not have a bunch of paid lobbyists. I assure you, we're not big enough to do that. That's a national ski area kind of level thing that happens.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to prod that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
All right, well,
oh, go ahead.
Well, if there's no more questions, we'll let you go. But I know we've run over our time. Miranda's probably mad at us, you know, and I don't want that.
Thank you for coming.
For everything.
Thank you so much for coming and answering our questions. We won't hold you responsible for the fact that we don't have any snow yet. But again, thanks, guys, and see you on the hill soon.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Appreciate your time.
Bye.
Thanks. All right, bye.
All right, we are moving forward. Our fourth and final information item, which Miranda will introduce, is the Green Business Program.
Yeah, so we just wanted to orient the Board of Trustees to a program that really the Clerk's Department, along with the SAB and the Sustainability Coordinator, will be working on with the DDA, which is the Green Business Program. This is a kind of a PACE sponsored program, but it is kind of its own entity. And the goal of this program is to really work with businesses to reduce their greenhouse gases, to start a movement to get their customers and employees to really think about sustainability on that broader scale, and to maximize program efficiency by just making sure that people like yourselves are oriented to these types of programs. So what this would look like is the town of Nederland would create a green business application, which would be very specific to our businesses and what they're capable of. I think often what we've seen with green business programs is our businesses maybe don't have the financial means to upgrade their refrigerators or to do some of these large scale energy efficiency programs. And so figuring out a way of assessing their commitment to being a green business in a way that works for Nederland. So once we've identified that application and what those milestones look like, we'll then send an announcement to the businesses, ask them to apply, and then they'll be awarded with a designation of being a green business, which we would celebrate in kind of a large scale recognition event. If the Board of Trustees, I think what we're kind of looking for tonight is really that nod of for that you support this program. That is a requirement of this program that the Board of Trustees does sign off. If agreed to move forward, we would then work with PACE representatives to do those applications. We'd release the applications in January, run the program for 6 months, and then celebrate the accomplishments in August. So there's no financial participation for this. It's again, just like seeking that designation and really as a business, making that formal commitment to being designated as a green business. So tonight I'm just asking if you support this program and agree with town staff working with the DDA and PACE to move it forward.
I think it sounds like a great idea. The one question I have is, what does PACE stand for?
Partner, oh geez. Partner something.
I didn't see it in the packet.
Partners for a Clean Environment.
Thank you, Hunter. Good thing Hunter's here.
All right, yeah, I think it sounds like a great project.
This was a sustainability coordinator project. When Garrett left us, he was working on like 20 projects. We piecemealed them out. And so this is the one that the town clerk department is going to take over in collaboration with those other entities. And we will hand it back to the sustainability coordinator once hired.
All right, since we are looking for a nod of for, I'll go down the list here. Alan, any questions, or are you not in support of this program?
It sounds like a great idea. I'm very much supportive.
Okay. Julian?
So I have a couple of questions. Miranda, what prevents a company from joining and then not doing anything. Are there concrete measurements that we use to say, yep, you actually did comply with these, these 5 criteria, therefore you are a green business and you get this plaque or something? And
Yeah.
sorry, you just didn't do anything. I mean, thanks for joining, but you didn't do anything.
Yeah, through the application process, we'll kind of assess what those commitments are that the business will make, but they will be required to do an on-site assessment where we come in and verify that they did in fact complete the components that would give them that green business designation. Now, what we haven't sorted out is what are those kind of milestones or those components. That's what we'll work with PACE to do to make sure that they're realistic and attainable for our businesses.
So what about businesses that are already operating in a very green fashion? Are they able to step in and say, this is fantastic, we're already conforming, and there's not much more we can do? Those businesses should also, get the plaque, whatever that is.
Yes, yeah,
Are we
absolutely.
prepared to address that? Kate?
Yeah, I think we would just hope, we would still want them to do the application, but then they'd really be expedited through to join us for that recognition event. But of course, I think a lot of our businesses really have, but some are looking for support. And what's cool about this program is if they know they used to use compostables, but it's really expensive, PACE in this program will make sure that they're connected with the right resources to pick that back up. And that's what
So that
we
assessment,
COVID. Yeah.
Okay. That assessment would be part of your inspection.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, very fine. I'm in favor of this entirely. Yes, very good.
Thank you, Julian. Lindsay?
I think this sounds like a great program, and I'm certainly in favor of it. And I hope that, one of the things that we can push, if it makes sense, is to get rid of styrofoam in town. I hope that's something that we can add.
Yeah, and so hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that zero waste grant we recently applied for, which would allow us to provide kind of a stipend to each business. It would be a credit with one vendor where they could order in bulk compostable materials, which ideally just kind of helps them get ahead. What Macy did some great outreach recently to businesses, and what we found is some have sadly maybe returned back to that out of cost. And so under the zero waste, if we are awarded that funding, which I believe was $25,000, we could buy the compostable and start to try to create pathways for people to be able to financially afford those materials. And it's kind of an educational program as well. So while that is a separate grant, PACE will also help to create those connections and those networks too.
Yeah, that's great.
I very much like the Eldora take this aluminum cup and bring it back project. That seems really useful. I mean, I would be entirely happy bringing my aluminum cup with a lid to the Indian restaurant and having them just fill it. So yeah, I think there's some interesting possibilities there that go beyond composting and recycling, but are actually just reusable. So I think that's very cool. I hope we're open to those kinds of issues.
Yeah, and actually Hunter, of course, being on SAB, and Hunter is a member of the Zero Waste Subcommittee. So as we roll out this green business program, not only her, but the group that she works with will be a part of that application and pulling together the different opportunities. And I think more than anything, green business program is about educating people to the opportunities available.
Thank you. Tanya?
Yeah, I think it's a great program, and I hope we get that funding for the compost, because that's always been composting containers. And then I think the next step to get is the composting for restaurants in the area, to figure out a way to collect it or create a compost area somewhere in town so they can just walk it over. Because, it's great though. I mean, I just know the compost stuff will end up in the trash, but that's fine because then at least it will eventually decompose in the landfill and all that. So it's definitely a step up, and I think it's a cute program. So good job.
I have further information on that. So there's a forward grant that town's looking into with the Zero Waste Subcommittee. You probably can't see these, but they're called BioSpeed Compost. They're not very large, but what they will do is they're a medium capacity machine that will compost your materials. And the thought is maybe if we looked at this grant and we're not sure kind of the time frame for execution, but perhaps we could look at ways in which those types of machines could be placed near and around the businesses. So in central business, maybe by TiVo, and provide that opportunity for businesses to just go, ideally walk downstairs or walk outside and go compost their materials. Some of the grants available allow you to add in funds for staffing to support with that. And so kind of exploring what that business composting would look like and where we could potentially put these machines to help them so that there's the ease and you're not having to worry about hauling it to the transfer station. So more to come on that.
Yeah, it sounds good. If a business gets awarded that green business program, whatever recognition, then they would be able to get access to these composting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely would worry a little bit about the cross contamination of just businesses aren't composting and using it as their trash cans, but that's just something else to worry about later. But it sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a huge educational component about this, and for any of these grants or any of these programs, that's kind of a large piece. Is ensuring that there are the people available. And what's great about this one is that the DDA, Town Clerk Department, SAB, Zero Waste, and the Sustainability Coordinator all as a team who can go out and provide that information to these businesses who want to learn more about what they can do to be considered that green business.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Eric?
Sounds great to me.
And Jonathan?
I'm in favor.
That makes it unanimous, more than a nod of 4.
Great. We'll come back and we can share with you once we've developed those applications. Just send them out to the board, and you'll also see them on our new website.
Good use for the new website, and yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you. Sorry, can't thank Garrett for the work he did on this before he left, but yep, this is a great new program. All right, we are moving into action items this evening, and the one action item we actually have to do every single year. This is it. This is what we've been working towards for the last 3 months. We are having the final hearing for the adoption of the 2022 budget. And I believe we have our town treasurer, Rita, here to introduce this and discuss it with us.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, trustees, and members of the public. We've been talking about this budget since September, and we've had several meetings about it. The one small change since our last meeting on November 9th is the increase of $3,750 for the match of the Sustainability Coordinator, which changed from $15,000 to $18,750. This change only affected the general fund. All the other funds stayed the same. We are in a very good financial position. We are still seeing an 18% increase in sales tax revenue when compared to 2020. And our property taxes have come in slightly above what we budgeted. We have been discussing the creation of the CIP, or Capital Improvement Project Fund, these past few months. Staff's recommendation is to wait and see where we're at as far as sales tax revenue goes once we receive December's amounts. Sales tax revenue is received 2 months in arrears. Therefore, we won't be receiving December's funds until February of 2022. We plan on bringing this back before the board in the spring of 2022. So really tonight is about taking that final step where you're going to adopt the 2022 budget. You have 3 resolutions in front of you. One is for the adoption of the 22 budget and the appropriations for the town and the DDA. The second resolution is for the budget mill levy for property taxes. And the final resolution is for the 2022 fee schedule that has been presented to the public and BOT for the past month. Also included with that is the Exhibit A that shows all the details of the fee schedule. And also included is the 2022 budget summary, in case anyone from the public hasn't had the chance to see that. So that's what you have before you tonight. And I do just want to thank Miranda for standing by me and supporting me during this budgeting fun. And also a big thank you to our town attorney, Jennifer Mattson, for her help in creating these resolutions and making sure they align with statutory requirements. And that's it from my side.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much for the work you've done over the last 3 months pulling this together and all the input from the board and the public. I'm going to start by going through the board and see if any board members have questions or comments for town staff on this, and then we'll take public comment before bringing it back to the board. And this can be on all 3 items that we're looking at: the budget, the property taxes, and the fee schedule. So we'll begin this time. We'll begin with Tanya.
So yeah, at this moment I don't have any questions. I thinking I might later, but I'm good now.
All right, sounds good. Julian?
Yeah, so Rita, you're beginning your 9-month vacation now? Is that's where we're going? Okay. So well, good luck with that. That's great. For now, the one thing I was thinking about, I mean, we've all looked at this over and over and over.
Right.
So, you know, I skimmed it. It's okay. It's what I've seen before. So all that's fine. We do have a proposal from ProSab regarding the benches. And I'm not suggesting that we incorporate any changes to this based upon that proposal. But certainly I hope, Miranda, that we can bring that proposal back for a discussion item at some point, and then we can kind of talk through if we're going to adjust this based upon the buy a bench program. But everything else here looks fine.
Right. I mean, the options are to approve everything we have tonight, or if there's overwhelming board support for changing that line within the fee schedule for
Sure.
the adopted bench, then we could do that tonight as well. But
Absolutely.
as you said, we could have a little bit more of a discussion about it and the goals of that program and modify that fee schedule via resolution
Absolutely.
later.
We could amend that later. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That would be my proposal. To let's amend that later if we're going to amend it.
Okay. Eric.
Yeah, the budget looks good to me. The property taxes look good to me. Of course, when it comes to the fee schedule, is the adopt a bench program, which I do think we need to do something about this evening, because I don't think it should be on the fee schedule as it is, as a $100 charge. I think that is inappropriate. That is not the purpose of an adopt a bench program. It really makes no sense to have it on there as such. And so I think either we should strike it from the fee schedule entirely, or we should simply do what I think is a very logical response to this and increase it to $1,000, because it is directly in line and lower, in fact, than many of our neighbors adopt a bench program. And you know, what Sam put together, I think, is really great, because it explains what an adopt a bench program is, which is not it's not, you're not paying for the sign, right? That's not the point of an adopt a bench program. The point of an adopt a bench program is to make a financial contribution to the town in somebody's name, or maybe even for a short saying or statement or phrase, but usually in somebody's name. So it's a way of honoring a loved one by making a significant financial contribution to the town that they ostensibly loved and cared about, especially if that loved one was passed. So in terms of adopt a bench, I think it should either not be on there at all if we're going to talk about this later. But I think that the right move here is to increase that $100 to $1,000, which is well below all of our neighbors in terms of adopt a bench programs used for parks funding. So that would be my proposal there.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Alan?
I would agree with Eric and Julian. I think this notion of donating money to the town in somebody's honor is a great idea. Maybe we could add a designation to it that the money goes to parks or to the food pantry or something like that, so people know it's going, excuse me, to a worthy and appropriate place. But everything else looked great, so thanks very much for all the work on it, and full speed ahead.
Lindsay?
Yeah, I think I'm in total agreement with the trustees who went before me, that the Adoptive Bench program should be a contribution of money in somebody's name to honor them in a place they love and have that money improve, a park or something in their name. So I'm certainly for increasing that to at least $1,000. And but everything else looks good. I think it's in line with everything we've discussed. But the Adoptive Bench thing, I think we need to charge more to make it symbolic.
Thank you, Lindsay. And Jonathan.
Overall, the budget looks great. I'm going to be in disagreement with the Adoptive Bench program, namely justification I'm hearing for $1,000 is that's in line with the neighboring communities, and the neighboring communities that were cited were, I believe, Boulder, or maybe Frisco, Crest Butte, Breckenridge. All of these municipalities have recreation departments with community centers that actually have facilities, swimming pools, intramural sports, programs, staffing. So while I agree with the concept of the Adoptive Bench program being a meaningful contribution, I just don't see what it's a meaningful contribution to. The idea that we just donate money to the town of Nederland and then earmark it to parks when parks don't have a vision and there is not a rec department that actually provides meaningful programming, I'm just in disagreement with. So I would say I would like to strike it if we're going to do anything tonight and bring this back for later discussion as Trustee Taylor proposed. I think there's a lot larger discussion to be had about what the Adoptive Bench program has been in the past and what this new vision might be, and just upped it to $1,000, saying it has to be a worthwhile contribution without a plan in place to allocate where those funds actually go and a real vision for this program. You're kind of just asking for $1,000 to get thrown into largely right now the general fund for the town of Nederland, and that can go so many different places. I'm not sure how that's meaningful as a adoption of a bench.
Mayor, might I respond to that?
Go for it.
I would just like to note that I was swayed by Trustee Coombs Esmail's argument, and I'm also swayed by Mayor Pro Tem Baumhofer's argument. And I would be 100% for just striking the Adoptive Bench program from this budget as the only amendment, and then bring that back with for a detailed discussion where we do say, here's how much we're going to bring back the Adoptive Bench program, let's say, and if so, this is the fee, and here's the reasoning for the fee because we've discussed it. That sounds like an entire resolution to me, and yeah, I think so. I'm all on board with striking the Adoptive Bench program for now, and then bringing it back to a future meeting to discuss thoroughly and then craft.
All right. Thank you, Julian. And thank you, Jonathan.
I have a comment now.
Yeah, go ahead, Tanya.
Well, I think $100 is fine. I think $1,000 is ridiculous for the reasons Jonathan mentioned. I think it could have before there was no fee and just the expense for town staff, and Miranda said it was about $50. I feel like we talked about it a lot at the last meeting. I also feel like we have so many other things to spend an hour discussing in the future that to put it on as another resolution, just the Adoptive Bench, is going to be a little irksome. I would personally say let's pass it as it is. I don't see why $100 is a problem for anybody. It's a gesture. It's a small donation. It's an affordable donation. It's not an elitist donation that only the rich people can honor their loved ones. Do you guys want to bring it back and talk about this for an hour in the future? fine. I'm fine with that. I'm totally opposed to $1,000. And there's nothing you guys are going to do to change my mind on that for the moment. Like Jonathan said, in the future, when we actually have a functioning rec department with activities and things to offer our community besides just a park, then maybe, but I feel like we have enough to talk about, and I would move to approve the budget as is.
Okay. Well, that not yet an official motion, correct? So we
No,
want to hear from the public.
I
Okay.
would make it official if we're at that point, but
We're not at that point yet. That's why I want to make sure. We want to hear from the public first. But thank you, Tanya, and thank you everyone for your thoughts on the three pieces we are looking at this evening. I'm going to throw this straight open to the public because I don't have anything to add to the conversation that hasn't been said by my fellow trustees here this evening. So members of the public, this is your chance to discuss the budget, and that includes the budget, the property taxes, and the fee schedule that we're looking at adopting this evening. As usual, you'll have up to 3 minutes. Catch our attention in some way, shape, or form, and let us know who you are and what you're thinking.
I'll speak up here just on that adopt a bench since we're on that, so we can wrap it up and either leave it or.
Please.
My name is Sam Ovett. I'm on the ProSab board. I live over on the Ridge Road area. As our discussion at the ProSab board, obviously we recommended bringing that fee up as making it in line with being a really a showing of support to the community and something that is really more meaningful in that way. And the other aspect of it is that, you know, since we're investing in having someone in the parks here soon in town, it is a way to generate some additional revenue. I do think it should go. The idea is that it would go towards improving the parks, recreation, and open space. And so that when someone makes that commitment, you know, it's really meaningful. So I'll keep it brief in that way, but I sent a presentation out that it sounds like a handful of people saw. And it was just to explain the intention behind a robust adopt a bench program. And so when it came across ours, you know, it was basically the concern is that it's just a way for town to make more money. And I think that the answer is yes, it is. So that it can go into the parks, the recreation, open space improvements, and the different things that make our community more wonderful. But also it's with the intent that we create a really robust adopt a bench program that's meaningful, so that, you know, it also provides the opportunity if town wanted to honor somebody, if you were to give a bench, if town decided, hey, we should really give a bench to this person who's done a lot for the community, it also has a little bit more weight in that way, outside of the personal donations for a bench. So I know there's a bit of different sides on that, and I just wanted to be here to, you know, I put a presentation out, so I wanted to be here to answer questions about that as well.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for the presentation you sent earlier, I guess a couple days ago. Watched over the weekend. So thank you for weighing in on that and for kind of letting us know what the ProSab thinking was on that.
Hi, I'm CT Hutt. I'm also on the ProSab board. I want to thank Sam for that presentation. That was really well put together. And just, pardon me, voice my full support for the Adopt a Bench program at $1,000. There are lots of things that we'd love to do with the Parks and Recreation Department. But right now, we have a lot of great parks. We have excellent trails. But those things need maintenance. Trash needs picking up. We have to lay down crushed stone on the trails and maintain them, cut down limbs. It all takes funding, and that could be a help to us. So, yeah, just want to voice my support for it.
Thank you, CT. Anyone else? Oh, I forgot to mention, we have had to mute some call-in users. If you're a call-in user and want to speak, you need to do *6 on your phone so that we can actually hear you. Scanning. Kathleen, I see your hand is up.
Kathleen, I think you weren't muted yet, so you by pressing star 6.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. The floor is yours.
Kathleen Chipite, Magnolia resident, 30 years, business owner, 18 years. I want to agree with Jonathan and Julian and Tanya on the Adopt-A-Bench. I think it needs to either stay at $100 and pass with the budget, or it needs to be brought back as a subject matter where it should be discussed more fully with the community. And I am going to mention the fact that Jeff Austin got his park bench for $50. He wasn't from the community. I don't know who paid for it. But then when Melinda passed, who worked at Town Hall, and her friends inquired on adopting a bench for her, this is right after Jeff Austin had got his, they were told by Miranda over a year ago that the park bench, it would cost $1,000, and they were put off to a later date, of course, because they could not afford it for our beloved town worker Melinda to have her park bench. So that got delayed and got delayed. So I'm a little upset about this change in park bench policy because Jeff Austin, who wasn't even from our community, somehow got a park bench for $50, and Melinda's family and friends were told it was $1,000 a year ago when it wasn't $1,000 a year ago. So I want to right now request that Melinda gets her park bench plaque, and I also believe there should be a plaque for $50 put on the walking bridge on behalf of Kevin, who painted the bridge and died suddenly a few weeks ago, and who was an active member in the arts in our community, and also painted the trash cans before they were replaced on First Street, and the whole walking bridge murals inside. So I would like to put that out there in the public right now, so people think about the two people that actually have contributed to the community and shouldn't be charged $1,000 to have a plaque put on a bench or on the paintings that Kevin did. He never was paid for any of those murals on the walking bridge. He was not even officially thanked by the town of Nederland for that, and now he's deceased before he was given permission to touch it up for free, which is just unacceptable to me. We want the place to look nice, but yet we're going to throw all these barriers up in front of people. So that's my public comment on the rest of the thing. But I think this actually deserves the difference between a dedicated plaque and adopting a bench or buying a bench or contributing something to the park. But I heard something mentioned about the food pantry in there, so I don't know if people donate to a park bench, why anybody, other than any entity other than the park enhancement would be involved whatsoever. So I'm against money going into anything but.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else like to speak on the budget?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Hi, this is Jessie Ansari. I am chair of Netherlands ProSab and town resident. So yeah, I just wanted to hop on tonight too a little bit and share just a little bit about the Parks and Recs Board's goals and discussions that we've had so far, just about establishing the commemorative bench program. And I'm sorry we weren't aware the item would be discussed last meeting. Otherwise, we'd have made an attempt to attend that and help answer some questions as they arose. So I'll just try and run quickly through a few of kind of our reasonings to help you understand where we were coming from. As I'm sure you know, memorial bench programs are super commonplace nationwide, and the purpose is just to basically offer the community an opportunity to honor or memorialize a loved one. And it's typically someone who loved like the local outdoors, parks and open spaces. So it's a symbolic way for individuals or groups to donate directly to their local parks. There are currently about 17 benches available for memorializing, and within the next year, we'll be installing 15 more. So our goal is to just have this program established by that time, so we can start actively promoting it. So benches, with that number, you can see they're a highly limited resource. And once we begin actively promoting that program, we do anticipate a high demand. And as far as where the money would go, we were discussing that we were requesting that it goes directly into the Nederland Parks budget, which is currently $15,000 per year. So that money covers all of Nederland Parks, trails, open space and recreational assets. And there's actually a lot more than you think of, that you might think of. There's Chipeta Park, there's also the Veterans Memorial, Barker Meadows, Gershio Memorial Ballfield, Big Springs Park, Doe Trail, Wingate Property, Open Space, Flaherty Park, Joe Smith Memorial Park, Tom Riley Park, the Netherlands Cemetery, the Gillespie House Museum, Tilden Park, Angel Park, Nathan Lazarus Skate Park, the ice rink, the tennis courts, Tungsten Trail, the school trail, the visitor center benches, the school trail to the elementary school, and the Caribou Ridge Trail. So we were anticipating that money would go directly into parks to fulfill kind of the wishes of the folks who were donating there. And we're currently working on the town's trails master plan, the updates to the trail master plan. So PROSAP is going to need funds to implement and execute those projects throughout the plan, which includes things like trail connections, looking into a way to cross the highway between the school and the community centre. And it would go into a pot for using for matching funds for future grants. So what we did to kind of come up with the price was just, we reviewed neighbouring communities. And obviously we do live in a fairly wealthy area. So we did look at just kind of comparative prices to give you an idea. It was things like Aurora, 2,650, Boulder, 3,000, Lafayette, 1,500, Castle Rock, 1,500, and maybe one that's a bit more comparative, Evergreen, which is $1,000, which does not include the bench.
Jesse?
So, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to let you know that was 3 minutes. So if you can.
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess just to finally say, if you have it at 100, I would recommend striking it at this time, and to bring it back, I would request that you would do that. But I do agree, we need to standardize the program to avoid any of these kind of possible confusions. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jesse.
Chris, this is
Yep.
Chris, this is Dawn Baumhover, Nederland resident. And I would like to thank Jess for clarifying the goals of PROSAB. But I am going to stand as a resident who could never afford to contribute $1,000 for a bench, but who might be able to contribute more than 100, but less than 1,000. And I believe that labeling it, most contribution programs that I'm familiar with adopt a seat in many different places, such as the high school theater. They have different levels of contributions. It's, they have levels and they have amounts, 50 to 100, 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 and above. So I would like to encourage PROSAP to consider something like that. And I guess that's all I have to say, other than I think $1,000 is cutting out many individuals who would love to adopt something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bench. I was listening to Kathleen and I thought, why not a contribution to the art community, PROSAB, whoever's responsible for that. There's many people who would be happy to donate their time to touch up those paintings that Kevin originally did. And they would donate their time and someone could sponsor one of those on the bridge. There's a lot of creative ideas that can be considered here that are between $100 and $1,000. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dawn. Anyone else? Looking, listening. Neither seeing nor hearing anyone else, I'll bring this back to the board. We have the three motions on the screen, and of those three motions, I think the board is unanimously, from what I heard from our comments earlier, and what I'm guessing we are still unanimously in favor of the first two. So I'll just skip over those. And the only question then is with regards to the fee schedule and how we want to address the bench adoption portion of the fee schedule. So I will weigh in first here, since I didn't really weigh in last time, and then we'll listen to the board comments to see if there is agreement so that we can move forward at this. And my feeling is, having listened to my fellow trustees, some, all of whom I've agreed with in one way or another, and then members of the public who had raised some very good points, I would propose that we strike the bench fee from the fee schedule currently, bring this back as a discussion. Something that I think it was Dawn just brought up, this idea of tiers. I would almost like us to have the ProSab take a look at what options we have in terms of larger, make it more than an adopt a bench program. Maybe the adopt, and I'm just throwing numbers out here, you adopt a bench for $1,000, you adopt the covered bridge for $10,000, you adopt trees for $50 a piece. We could do this as a way to provide tiered things throughout town, so that everyone can contribute and everyone can have an opportunity to memorialize and support. And I really think when we do this, and part of the reason why I think we should probably strike it from the fee schedule tonight and bring it back as a resolution, is I do agree that we should bring it back in such a way that any funds raised through this program are earmarked for parks, because we are in the process of looking for a part-time parks person as a town. So we are trying to move in that direction. So earmarking it for the use of a parks program, I think is an important part of it, instead of, as Jonathan said, having it just kind of flow into the general fund. So that's my opinion on that, would be to strike it now, but bring it back as possibly an expanded program, or at least an earmarked program in particular. Jonathan, what about yourself? Jonathan, you're on mute. I'm hoping I wasn't on mute the whole time I was talking just now.
No, you weren't, but thank you. I'm actually in agreement with you. I'd just propose we strike it. There's a lot of potential and opportunity with this program, and I do appreciate ProSab's effort in bringing this forward, and kind of the vision for it, I think, is in the right direction. It's just not yet fully established, and I'm not sure if we have a robust rec department to have a robust adopt a bench program for. But I think the concept of adopting something in the community, or putting up plaques for loved ones, members of our community who we have lost, that were and have been a huge part of this community and contributed in all types of ways, could be made into something a lot more. So I would say let's strike it for tonight, and let's bring this back into discussion. And to answer Tanya's question, yes, I do think it's worth a discussion. If we're going to start establishing programs that allow people to contribute to town, adopting a portion of town, a bench, some object, then we need to have the discussion of why we're doing this and what those funds are earmarked for and what it really means.
Thank you, Jonathan. Eric?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it can stay on the fee schedule as it is. I think that these benches are obviously assets, and that the program needs to either be a genuine adopt a bench program, or I think should not be on the fee schedule at all, because we can't be giving up benches for $50 a piece. I recognize that things have happened in the past, but I mean, that's why we're trying to rectify it now. So that's kind of irrelevant to the conversation. The reality is that parks cost money, and parks are a huge part of our town. And perhaps one of the reasons why we don't have, as what folks have described as a robust parks department, is because we have not established revenue streams in order to maintain a robust parks department. So that it's kind of like a chicken or an egg thing here. We can't create it first because you need the money to do it. And if we're not allowed to raise the money, then how do we create it, right? So I'm fine having the conversation later. I do think that this is a fairly simple notion, and I don't think we should overcomplicate it. Every town that I know of in this country has an adopt a bench program of some kind, and they all charge a significant amount of money because it is supposed to be meaningful in some way. The idea is not that one human being pays $1,000 to adopt a bench. The idea is that this is often a group effort where people come together to donate something to the town in the name of somebody that they loved. It is not asking an individual to adopt a bench for $1,000. So I just think that we have to be clear on what this is, what the purpose of these sorts of programs are, and what symbolic value they have in terms of the impact on the town. And in this case, in an adopt a bencher program, the impact is a financial impact. But not all programs that we do are necessarily financial, right? But this particular one is, and it typically is, and it traditionally is. And in order to be understood in the same way that it is understood all over this country, I think it needs to be a significant amount of money. So I really hope that we can get something passed here, because I think it's quite a simple thing, and I'm a little bit flabbergasted as to why it has become such a complex issue.
Okay, Eric, I just want to clarify one thing in your comments, and actually this is for Jonathan as well. If we do strike the fee from the current fee schedule, and in favor of a more extended discussion, a full program, are you thinking that would mean a suspension of the program currently, sort of and I don't want to use the word moratorium, but we wouldn't be having, because there's not a fee on the schedule doesn't mean that people can do it for free.
Indeed, I think that it needs to be removed entirely from town as an option. You cannot
don't have an adopt a bench program until a new policy is in place.
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify that. Tanya?
I don't have anything more to add.
Okay. Lindsay?
I don't have any further comments.
Julian?
I had a whole speech planned, but I agree with the mayor.
Sorry to steal your thunder there. Alan?
I concur with your suggestion.
Okay.
Mayor, can I ask a point of clarification? This is Miranda.
Please.
If we suspend the program, I do want to be sure the board is aware we do have an application before us. The applying party is actually asking that town consider paying for the plaque. It's for Melinda LaJudith. And my intention was to bring this request before ProSab at their meeting next week. And I guess I'd just be looking for directive if the desire is to suspend the program, if we wanted to still look at this application under kind of the current parameters, since it is currently before town.
My feeling is as that's before town and they're asking for a waiver of the fees anyway, whether they're $100 or $1,000, I would say that could continue to move forward, my personal view. And also because of the fact that Melinda was a town employee. I think that would be appropriate in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. This is Tanya.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, yeah, let's bring that to ProSab unless other trustees speak up in the counter.
Yeah, with respect to our basic constitutional principle that we don't pass a law that changes something already in process, I agree completely with that.
So from the Board of Trustees, we are looking for someone to make the first two motions that are on the screen as they are written. And when we would be looking for the third motion regarding Resolution 2021-28 with a modification to strike the adopt a bench fee and suspend the adopt a bench program moving forward in 2022.
I'm happy to do that. I move to approve resolution number 2021-26, adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022.
Do we have a second? We have a second from Trustee Coombs Ismail. Macy, if you would please call the vote. We unmute Macy. There we go.
Sorry, I have to request to be unmuted. All right, Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Trustee Abt.
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover, excuse me.
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin
Yes.
and Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Budget is approved unanimously. Julian.
I move to approve resolution number 2021-27, levying general property taxes for tax year 2022.
I second.
We have a second again. Macy.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Apt,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yes.
That resolution is also passed unanimously. Trustee Taylor, one final time.
I move to approve resolution number 2021-28, setting fees, rates, and charges for various town licenses, permits, and services, and also, at the same time, striking the line item for the Adopt a Bench program, suspending the Adopt a Bench program, except for those requests already in process.
Do we have a second? Again, Trustee Coombs Ismail. Macy, one last time.
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
and Trustee Apt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Macy, and congratulations, everyone. We have a budget for 2022. Rita, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
I will, instead of postponing this last comment here to other business, I guess we'll just work with town staff to determine when to schedule the discussion on the Adopt a Bench. ProSab, Sam, and Jesse, I know you're here. Thank you so much for the work you guys put into this. And I'm forgetting someone. CT, that was the other ProSab member that spoke. Thank you for the work you put into this. I look forward to having this discussion more fully, looking at the policy and trying to really come up with a program that works really well for Nederland. And we'll determine where to fit that into the BOT schedule and work with you guys to make sure you're part of that discussion.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for the good discussion about it, and I think it brings up a good opportunity to turn this into a more robust program that has even more stuff. That doesn't feel rushed.
Agreed. All right. Again, thank you all. Thank you for the public that's weighed in over the last 3 months on this. Budget is done for the year for us. I mean, Rita still has to put together the budget book in January, but the rest of us get to not think about it for a couple months. Moving on to our next action item. This is the next step in a discussion we had last week. So Miranda, if you want to bring us up to date on that.
Yes, at the last BOT meeting on November 16th, we brought before you a request from the PTP Housing and Human Services Subcommittee asking that 99% of the occupational tax received from short-term rentals be provided to them to distribute for Health and Human Services. The board had expressed that was of interest to them. So tonight we've brought back before you a resolution 2021-29, allocating those funds as a 99% split to Health and Human Services, which is all that's allotted per the ordinance. And then the remaining 1% will go to law enforcement. So tonight we're looking to see you pass it.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. This is, talk about a slam dunk action item. Thank you, Miranda. Board of Trustees, we'll just go through and see if you have any questions. So this is, obviously what we just heard. And we'll begin with Lindsay.
No questions at this time.
Tanya?
No.
Alan?
Full speed ahead.
Eric?
Works for me.
Julian?
This is listed as a discussion item, but I believe it is an action item. Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't update the aim, but it is listed on the agenda
Okay.
as an action item.
Yeah, and this is
Right.
fine with me. Yeah.
And Jonathan.
No comments. Looks good.
All right, it is an action item, so I will now throw open the floor to the members of the public. If anyone would like to speak on this item, now would be your chance. Catch our attention, and you can have the floor up to 3 minutes. I am not seeing, oh, wait, sorry, Chris, is that your hand up? Oh, sorry. You're on mute. I can't hear.
Yes, it is.
There we go.
I just wanted to clarify on this. Last time there was some question about all the other nonprofits involved in the community receiving some of this access to this funding. And I want to make it clear that yes, this subcommittee will take referrals from all the other nonprofits and even requests, but these are the agencies that vet those human service requests, and that's why they are the subcommittee and doing the request for the funding. We're not ignoring the other nonprofits in town. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Anyone else? Not, I will bring this back to the Board of Trustees for final thoughts, comments, or a motion regarding Resolution 2021-29.
I move to approve Resolution 2021-29, allocating revenues from the occupational tax on lodging services to the Health and Human Services Fund.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Macy?
Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Apt,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yeah.
and Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Very good. Resolution is passed. Thank you. Thank you all. We have one final resolution before us this evening. Miranda?
It's election time, comes by quickly. We are preparing for the April 2022 election, which is on April 5th. Prior to knowing kind of which route we go, we need to discuss with the Board of Trustees whether we do a mail-in ballot or an in-person election. Mail-in ballots do lead to a more robust turnout. For those of you who maybe don't remember, typically our voter turnout is like around 300, and last year we crossed over the 500 threshold, and I think we had like around 525. So I do strongly recommend the Board of Trustees consider mail-in ballots, but that's kind of the question before you is mail-in or in-person, and if it's mail-in, then approving this resolution 2021-30, authorizing us to move forward with mail-in ballots for that April 2022 election.
And is this, if we say mail-in, is it mail-in only? So there will be no in-person option on April whatever?
We do, yeah, well, we do the drop boxes. So on April 5th, people could still come. Last year under COVID, 2 years ago under COVID, we didn't let people into the room. So they dropped them off in the box outside of the community center. That will be an option. And assuming there are no guidelines, then we will allow people to come in and drop their ballots off outside of the multi-purpose.
Okay. Trustees have questions for Miranda on this item, beginning with Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have questions. I guess you already asked the question I had, which is if we go mail in, does that mean mail in only as opposed to in person? I'm kind of old school and will always still want a ballot box and the opportunity to vote in person to be available for citizens, but that's my 2 cents. I do understand with COVID, my preference would be that we could approve both mail in and in person, but I'm not sure if that's possible.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Bob, will you say that again?
I think he's questioning whether it's possible to do mail-in and in-person.
That's a great question, and I'm not sure town has done that. I'll have to check statute. So if you give me a moment, I could take a look while you're having a discussion.
Okay. Trustee Apt?
Well, I can appreciate the motivation for when you do it in person. I think in the COVID era, we just kind of have to punt and go with mail-in. So I'm fine with it as is.
Okay. Trustee Danforth?
Yeah, I'm personally a huge fan of voting in my pajamas. So certainly mail-in ballots are my favorite thing to do. But I do understand that some people want in-person. So if that's a possibility to do both, I'd love to do that. If not, absolutely in favor of mail-in.
Okay. Trustee Coons Ismail?
Yeah, I agree with Lindsay and Jonathan that if we can have an in-person option, that's great, but I am in favor of mail-in ballots.
Okay. Trustee Corvallin?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to do mail-in this year.
Okay. And Trustee Taylor?
The research is in. Mail-in ballots increase the number of active voters, and so I'm all for the mail-in ballot.
Okay. Miranda, do you have any additional things you
No, I don't know, Attorney Madsen. I realized I don't have my book here. If Attorney Madsen has clarification on the components, like I know in the past we've allowed people to come in and physically hand us their ballots, but in terms of having like a space in which they vote, I've been looking for clarification. I don't know, Attorney Madsen, if you know off the top of your head.
Well, you have to have a space to vote.
No, hold on. We'll get to public comment here in a minute.
So I'm kind of scrambling looking at the statutes. This isn't something that I know off the top of my head either, but I think that Miranda is correct, that if it is a mail-in ballot election, that is how it is handled in terms of that it's mail ballots, but you can have a drop box to drop those ballots off. You just wouldn't have a, polling place where you fill in circles. So, and the procedure is if on election day someone lost or didn't receive their election, there are procedures outlined in statute of how they could get a replacement ballot, which they could do day of. And so that's a piece where then they would fill it out in the privacy of wherever. But they would be doing the drop box in terms of placing their ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Again, though, that's me without fully reading into statute. So if this is a desire, I can always bring this resolution back to the Board of Trustees at the next meeting. The goal is to try to get it done before the end of year. And we have one more meeting to set this.
Miranda, I have a question.
Yeah.
So this ballot that they would get on the day of the election would not be a provisional ballot, correct? It would be an actual legitimate ballot.
Correct.
And
There's a form in which a person files to receive a replacement ballot.
yeah. There are no requirements anywhere in the statute that indicate where you are required to fill out a ballot. And so if you end up getting a ballot mailed to you and you fill it in, that is entirely consistent with statute and is not significantly different from going into a polling place, picking up a piece of paper and filling it out there. So I just wanted to make that clear. So fine, yes. If they can fill it out the day of election, I think we're in fine shape.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, like you said, Julian, the results are there that mail-in elections have increased turnout. They democratize this and make it easier for everyone. Huge supporter of it, and Colorado has really led the way on this nationwide. And I think it's been a wonderful improvement on our democratic system. That said, we will open this up to public comment before bringing it back to the board for further discussion. And I do see a couple hands up. Dawn Baumhover.
So I would just like to say that if you receive a ballot and a mail-in ballot and you fill it out, that can either be, if the board should choose to have a physical location, you can, number one, mail it in, number two, put it in the drop box, or number three, turn it into the physical location on the day of election. Any of those three options. If the board should choose not to have a physical location, your mail-in ballot can be number one, mailed in, or number two, put in the drop box. Our agreement with Boulder County is that the drop box is open for our use during for our town municipal elections. So those two options are always available to us. I hope that helps clarify some things.
Indeed. The other hand up I see is Kathleen. Kathleen? Maybe that
Can you
hand
hear
is...
me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. 3 minutes.
Kathleen Chipai, East Magnolia resident, 30 years. Business owner, 18 years. I've mailed in my public comment if I can't get through it all. I'm against a mail-in only election for April of 2022. Since Boulder County has done such a poor job of maintaining legitimate voter records. And as Jimmy Carter said until COVID-19 84, quote, that because it takes place outside the regulated environment of local polling locations, voting by mail creates increased logistical challenges and the potential for voter fraud, especially if safeguards are lacking when candidates or political party activists are allowed to handle mail-in or absentee ballots. Nationwide, any voter turnout over 70% for presidential elections is a red flag because historically voter turnout is lower, averaging 45 to 60%, and nationwide local voter turnout over 47% is a red flag because historically voter turnout is lower in 25 to 39% range. NED's possible voter population is around 1,550. During the April 2020 election, Miranda posted on social media that she mailed out around 1,250 or 1,350 ballots, and town received 40-something back, returned as undeliverable. I don't have the time right now to check the exact numbers, so I'm going to use the lower 1,250 mailed on the low end and 45 returned. Based on those numbers, at least 200 more ballots were mailed than eligible voters in Nederland, and less than 50 were returned undeliverable. Nederland had its biggest local voter turnout in its history in April of 2020, which is awesome, but also a red flag for me, knowing town's voter turnout history to be 250 to 325 range, and until 2020, only once over 400 people voted. Based on local NED voter turnout history being 275 to 300 voters participating and once over 400, anywhere below 950 and 850 local ballots on average are not being voted on, and most of them are not returned undeliverable, so they are delivered and someone has received them. Then in 2020, NED had a record election turnout. Again, I have to confirm the number, but off my memory, it was close to double historical turnout. And I realized when I ran the recall, when we did a mailing, that had approximately the same number of people that ballots were sent to in April of 2020, that I only mailed to 850 people who had voted in the presidential election prior, and the town has to email all the people on the list, which was over 1,250, possibly over 1,350. And I got 225 return. So I got a return rate.
If you can finish up. Thank you. Thank you for that. I will note for the record that the Jimmy Carter quote is false. It's from nearly 20 years ago and cherry-picked from a report that he has since backed away from, so not actually relevant. Anyone else from the public like to speak on this matter? Not. I will bring this back to the Board of Trustees for any further discussion. Or
I'd like to
if anyone,
offer that clarification. So in looking at statute, we've got section 3110-910, which talks about the procedures for mail-in ballot. And there's a specific section that goes over exactly how ballots are to be returned. And it's what we've identified, and that they mail it or they drop it off to a designated location. So again, to Trustee Taylor's point, can be filled out wherever, but that they would be either physically returned. And those two drop-off locations are Town Hall and the Community Center, both that outside box and often indoors, and then having them mailed to us.
I would like to just suggest that we make sure that perhaps using our new text system to citizens, we make sure citizens understand that if they haven't received their ballots at a particular time, then they should drop by Town Hall and pick up a ballot, and perhaps explain a little about that procedure. The other thing I'm thinking is statistics are not for amateurs.
other comments from the Board of Trustees? Or if anyone would like to make a motion regarding Resolution 2021-30.
I move to approve Resolution 2021-30, authorizing mail-in ballots for the April 2022 elections.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Macy, once again.
Oh, sorry, let me unmute her.
Unmute Macy.
Give me one moment. I gotta get to her. Sorry, Macy.
Well, you don't want Macy talking when we don't want her talking.
No, I feel like
No
I
one wants
power
that.
over her right now. Sorry, Macy, there you go.
It's okay. Thank you, Miranda. All right. So Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth,
Yes.
Trustee Act,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yeah.
and Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you all. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the discussion. So concludes our action items for this evening. I would like to propose a 5-minute break. Let's go refill our water bottles before we dive into our discussion items, because I think they promise to be fruitful, and I want everyone to be fresh for them. So let's return here. Actually, let's give 8 minutes, 9:25 p.m. since it is currently 9:17. We'll come back and tackle our discussion items. 1-minute warning till we come back to this meeting for those who can hear me out there. All right, everyone. By the clock on my computer, it is 9:25 again now. So we'll bring this meeting back to order and start the first of our 3 discussion items this evening, which is going to be introduced to us once again by Miranda.
So I wanted to bring back the American Rescue Plan Act and offer a bit of clarification. The original plan was to bring this back to you back in November, but I had received some notifications about some various programs that might be available to our community members to help them with utility bills, both in arrears and current, and kind of was recommended not to spend ARPA funds because there are so many programs available. So I wanted that opportunity to explore these a little more, and therefore had sent an email to the Board of Trustees on November 15th, letting you know I'd bring this back in December. So here it is. There are $22 million plus worth of funds for utility bill assistance, primarily coming in the form of this emergency rental assistance program. But EFA also recently received $250,000. LEAP has a substantial amount of funds. I don't know the amount, but enough to support. And then Canyon Cares continues to receive financial resources to assist. And so in talking with these different entities, the feeling was, given that Nederland receives such a small amount of ARPA funds, that perhaps we should look into really enhancing and pushing forth these programs and let these programs take over those bills, because, like, for example, they call it ERP. This ERP program has to spend their $22 million by March. That's their goal. And so they're on a really tight time frame. Anything not spent just has to be returned back to the state. So it's in our best interest, I think, to be driving these programs, these individuals to these different programs. So in the packet tonight, I provided the presentation given to me by the ERP, which I think is one of the best programs available to our residents. But the feeling amongst the utilities team is what we would do is pull together very specific information on how to apply, even down to providing the application, and mail it out to accounts in arrears, which is about a little over 50 residential and commercial. And EFA has offered to set up booths and times where people could come to town hall, and she'd help them work through the applications and really just kind of step-by-step guide them through these processes. ERP is a 1-page form. You indicate that you're below that 80% AMI. Sorry, that should say AMI there. The 80% AMI, which a lot of our residents do qualify for. You would just indicate that you need the funds. They actually don't even ask for proof of that AMI. There's a box that you can check saying, I certify I'm being honest and truthful. So it's a very easy application. It's just, of course, with any of these programs, I know Trustee Taylor spoke about this with EFA previously, it's getting the resident to fill out the form. And so as the utilities team, that we feel like we can commit to helping to extend this information to people. And really the question before you tonight is, do you still want to use ARPA funds to do utility bill assistance? Or do you want us to actively educate and pursue these funds for our residents? And then kind of the second question is, of course, we have that first round of money. We've received a lot of different requests for how to use it. And so would you be in support of me bringing all those back on December 21st, including premium pay for essential workers? So the board could assess how you use that remaining $92,000. You don't have to use it in its entirety, but you could start to look into options. I'm happy to answer any questions though about these different programs available or what we're recommending in terms of pursuing this avenue versus using ARPA funds.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why were the town of Netherlands sent out? Why did we send out notices of liens to 12 residents and 2 businesses before we allowed them to fill out these forms and help them in the way you're talking? In this month or two that we've been discussing it, you sent out these notices of liens to people where the fees are almost double what they actually owe. We're talking about people who owe like $200 to town of Ned. Now have been sent notice of liens with interest, let's see, admin fees of 75, county lien recording fees for 18, collection costs for $35, all because of there's a water and sewer charge of $262, bringing their total bill now to $391.4. I thought we were trying to be compassionate and helpful, and we're waiting to get more information. I feel like while we were waiting to get more information was not the time to send these notices of liens to our residents who are struggling right now with COVID. And all this conversation now seems to me just kind of like whatever, because it's too late for them. And
so these programs are always available to residents. And I know when
that they're always available, but you understand how it just seems like you have good intentions, but in the reality, they aren't there because the follow through wasn't there because of this. We could always send out liens. We weren't explicitly told by the Board of Trustees not to send out liens. We were just told not to have fees. It seems to go without saying you're not going to add these fees on. I don't know how are you going to deal with these people?
So as I did indicate in the AIM a little explanation about these liens, and so town staff we have been waiving late fees and water shutoffs. However, we do still do liens because we feel it's one of the less obtrusive ways of ensuring the town receives payment. And typically that's often at the time in which a property sells when you do file that lien. As staff, we do have concerns if you remove late fees, shutoffs, and liens, it provides little incentive to pay your utility bills.
Well, I thought we were going to lead them towards these programs to get these programs to pay the bills so that we wouldn't have to put the burden on the homeowner or the renter. Now they have no choice but to pay this. And we're not really helping anybody. There's 14 people right now out of the 50 that are no longer going to be being helped by us. In fact,
so those entities can still pursue funding through different programs if they have a lien or if they don't have a lien. They can, and I do want to offer clarification that the liens were filed for any properties with outstanding bills from June of 2021 and prior. And again, for us, there's no financial burden to pay right now. It's just that we're filing documentation to ensure that we receive payment. Typically, again, at the time in which there is an exchange of the property.
I don't know. I just think it's really disingenuous, and it really, I really don't like it. Really, it's not in the spirit of the season.
Okay. Did you have, since Tanya, since you're on unmuted already, did you have thoughts on the idea of bringing back the other?
I think we should pay everybody's bill and give them this information for the future. I mean, in this time that we've been debating this, these months and months, people have had properties lien notices sent to them. So let's just pay these bills for them already.
Okay. All right. How about you, Eric? What do you think on what we've been presented?
Well, what we've been presented is very logical, but we've only gotten to this point, as Tanya kind of says here, we've only really gotten to this stage of the conversation because we've kind of waited so long on executing on covering folks' expenses. So I have a lot of sympathy with Tanya's sentiments here, in that I kind of feel like, especially since people are getting notices in the mail, that regardless of the reality of those, what they may be from an administrative point of view, they are traumatizing, legitimately, and they are upsetting. And I think that we could have mitigated this a little earlier. Yes, there are all these other programs that exist. They do require applications. Yes, maybe the application is only one page, but even one page sometimes is simply too much. And it's my kind of feeling that we should simply follow through on what we said we were going to do, and we should do that as soon as humanly possible, and maybe learn for next time. Hopefully there is not an American Rescue Plan, because there's nothing for us to be rescued from again. But in the event that there is a similar situation, that maybe we'll do better next time. But this time, I think that we should. I think we should bite the bullet, and I think we should cover these folks' bills.
Okay, Julian.
So I'd like some clarification on it appears, Miranda, that we have a choice between ARPA or what you're calling ERP. Is that the ERAP thing, Emergency Rental
Yeah, they
Assistance
call it
Program?
ERAP, I guess.
They call it ERAP. Okay, that makes a little more sense than ERP. Is it a choice between one or the other? Can we not choose both? Do they exclude each other?
I know that ERAP's preference is that you use them because they have so many funds that they'd love to not return back to the state. I guess you
Which
could
funds
see
would come through most quickly?
the American Rescue Plan would obviously be the fastest, because we already are in possession of the 92,000.
So that's fine. I think we should apply these funds. My feeling is we should apply these funds from the American Rescue Plan, and I'm not sure I see why that would prevent us also applying to ERAP.
So they wouldn't have any accounts in arrears. ERAP really only works for accounts that are, because at that point in time, it would have wiped up all current bills. And by the time Q1 2022 goes out, ERAP is likely going to be done. So again, it just that there would be no program for people to enroll in, which is a positive, or not a negative. I mean, that's a positive in and of itself. But I mean, that's why ERAP really reached out and were ones to express a desire that we use their funds, because they have them available and they want to apply them to municipalities.
But by March 2022, so nothing to deal with people right away. Okay, that's my only question.
Okay, Alan.
I agree that time is of the essence here, and I think it was bad form to send out the link. I understand why it was done, but I proposed this months ago to help people out with their bills, and we were headed in that direction. I think we need to get it done with the funds that are available, pay off the bills, and then do follow up on informing people of the various programs and so on and so forth. But I do think I could see how it really was disturbing to people to get those kind of liens when we're supposedly in the process of helping them when they're in a state of distress.
Thank you, Alan. Lindsay?
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of using funds that we have available, especially funds coming from the American Rescue Plan, and using those funds to help people in need. So I know that we had discussed this, months and months ago, and I thought we had come to an agreement on who was to be helped, but now I have to go back into those minutes. But I certainly want to be able to help people as quickly as possible, and so I'm in favor of using the ARPA funds.
Jonathan?
It seemed to me if that we've been discussing this and we're actively sending out liens, even if they're just administrative kind of footnotes, that we should take the stress off of our citizens, pay this funds. I get that we could use these funds, which are currently in our possession, for other things, and then pay these backlogged with the ERPA or whatever funds. But I guess at the same time, I'm not necessarily against funds being returned to the state. If they haven't found a use for these funds, maybe it should be returned to the state. Seems like we're throwing a lot of free money around right now that I get why we're doing it, but it seems like we have to chase down people to let them know that there's free money available is also a little bit, maybe it's not the government's responsibility to be doing that. So let's pay these bills and get on with it.
Thank you, Jonathan. So Miranda, this discussion, as we'll take public comment here, but it sounds like listening to the sentiment of the board, perhaps what we should look at for that next board meeting, which was the question you posed on the screen, is bringing back, well, however we can help the 14 people, the 14 accounts that are in arrears currently based on this situation. Whether that needs to be, I don't know if that has to be a resolution or just something that we pass as even in consent agenda at this point from these funds at that meeting, but then also look at what the other requests from other organizations, because I'm imagining those 14 accounts are certainly not the full 92,000 that we have in the bank, or not in the
But I
bank.
want to clarify that those are 14 accounts with that are in arrears of June 30th and prior. There are, I believe it's 54 total. I still think you're looking at approximately 35,000, but what we can do is bring back that consent indicating the exact amount the board is going to commit from ARPA funds to clear accounts in arrears, including those that were placed into a lien.
Okay. Let's open this up to public comment, and then we'll come back and final thoughts from the Board of Trustees. If anyone from the public would like to speak on this, now would be your chance. Catch our attention in some way, shape, or form, or begin speaking.
I'll jump in.
All right.
I know that we have already sent some folks to LEAP. How are you going to deal with that? And I know that LEAP is not real fast. So I want that to be known. And we also have been doing referrals to the ERAP funding. So I just want you to be aware that we've already jumped in and tried to do some things.
So yeah, so some of these might already be under, so maybe what we're looking at instead of, when this comes back to the Board of Trustees, it's in such a way that accounts that aren't being worked through the other organizations, or that, no?
No, there's really no way to do that because of privacy laws. And so I think at this point, it would be town choosing to wipe all these accounts, and then we just notify the account holder to suspend any active application they have with the organizations they're working with, but then of course remind them that those are options for the future.
For the future, okay. All right. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. Anyone else from the public like to weigh in?
This is Chris, Public Works.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that accounts that are in arrears greater than 180 days are the ones that we target for liens. So they're in arrears for over half a year. And that at day 70, if it's not the property owner, if it's a renter, we also inform the property owner that the account is in arrears at a certain point, just to inform them that the property could get shut off. Even though we're not doing shut-offs right now, they do need to be informed so that no property damage. And also the staff encourages residents to do all these programs that are available. So it's not like they're in a vacuum. When Kat talks to them, make sure that they're aware that these programs are available.
Thank you, Chris.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. You
Hey.
have the floor, Kathleen.
Kathleen Chip by Magnolia Star Route, 30 years. Yeah, I have something to say. I'm shocked and awe. I saw something about this that got deleted quickly off social media, but I cannot believe this explanation for why people were sent liens to me is baloney. The BOT made its mind up months ago. I posted on social media that the money was going to be going to the people whose bills were not paid. When Chris says, well, and Miranda says, well, these bills are more than 180 days. Well, no, duh. That is why the BOT voted months ago to get them paid. I don't know why the town couldn't have just erased everything that was owed and waited patiently for Miranda, apparently, to, what, put the money in the bank account from the grant money? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't like what I'm hearing, and I'm so sad that once again it was presented that you wanted to help the people of Nederland, and you turned around and screwed royally 14 families, which is just shocking to me. This is just as disingenuous as having no explanation at the last meeting for raising the bench fee from $50 to $1,000. I mean, we were told when I asked, well, what was the money going for? We heard that Public Works needed the money to maintain the benches. Okay, that's not at all what I just heard tonight from Jesse Asnari and Eric. So I just can't even, I mean, we were talking about that the people that adopted a bench needed to actually maintain the bench. I don't even know what to say. It's town property. Now, yeah, that's my public comment. I'm ashamed that Town Hall went ahead while they knew that the BOT and went and put liens on these people, especially when I didn't look at the documents, but Tanya mentioned bills in the $200 range. It's appalling. It's upsetting, and everyone should be sent an apology letter and chocolates, in my opinion, because the intention was to help people, not screw them more and additional fees when it comes to liens. It's disgusting.
All right. Just as a reminder to the public, when speaking on public comment, try to keep your comments on topic to what it is we are discussing. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Not seeing or hearing anything. I'll bring this back to the board. Miranda, do you feel like you've gotten direction from the board for the next meeting and in terms of how we can address the accounts that are in arrears with ARPA funding?
I think that if it's okay, we'll just bring it back as consent agenda, outlining the exact amount that will be used to pay off in arrears. And then I might work with Jennifer Madsen just to make sure we don't need any, I don't know if we need a resolution for that, but have that approved that way. And then we'll bring back the other recommendations, and then we'll work with the county on the paying off like the accounts in arrears. The accounts with liens on them.
This would clear the entire account, including any fees associated with the lien. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think town staff may have to administratively absorb those other fees. I'm not sure that those are ARPA eligible, so we would really be absorbing the cost for recording.
But the homeowners or the renters will have see their accounts zeroed out.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we all agree on the general principles, and we just need to list the numbers and then disperse the funds.
Okay.
All right. But that, you said will be roughly in the order of $30,000 to $35,000, which leaves us $55,000 to $60,000 of ARPA funding unaccounted for.
Yes. Yeah. When I brought this back last time, it was just shy of 32,000. And of course, there's been another billing cycle. And I don't think tons of payments on those accounts in arrears. And so I think you are looking at potentially around or slightly more.
So do we want to still have a discussion from those other requests for the remaining $55,000 to $60,000 of ARPA funding at our next meeting? That said, if we choose not to spend that money, it doesn't go away. Is that correct? That would roll over and be added to the tranche we'll get next June or
Yeah, and
July?
let me just I'll give just a preview. I know we've got the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services looking for some funding, some additional funding. We have the Mountaineer that's looking for funding to support highlighting businesses. And then you had previously asked me to bring back a premium pay for essential workers. If you'd like me to bring those back, we can. You can also wait. These funds have to be spent by 2024. There is really robust requirements for reporting, but as I noted in a previous email to the board, we were awarded that grit removal, so the 100,000 has already been committed to that.
Okay. Well, I think certainly let's bring back the, obviously the utilities payment piece. Personally, I would like almost to pause on the other disbursements, because then we will have, you can do a lot more with $250,000 than 190 here, 60 there. So personally, I would like to sort of hold on to it and see what we can do to make a more transformational change, potentially even with the next board of trustees in the spring. But that's my personal view.
So I would just, my only maybe point to that is the people who did submit requests had submitted them a long time ago. And I know they likely would appreciate the Board of Trustees looking at them, whether that's me emailing them and you deciding if there are two of you who want to bring it forward. But they have been patient as we worked through some of those other pieces.
Alan, you gotta take. You want to hear additional options for disbursement on the 21st, or not?
No, I don't think so. I think we have a path forward on the utility bills, and these are extraordinary times and require extraordinary measures to help
But
people.
you don't want to hear from the other people that have applied to the town?
Oh, I do want to hear that. Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, you do want to hear on it. Okay.
Yeah,
Lindsay?
definitely.
Lindsay, how about you? Come back to Lindsay. Tanya, do you want to hear more on or more options on the 21st?
Yeah, I do. I had thought we were gonna give EFA a significant amount of money.
So EFA, they just got that 250,000. And so of course they're happy to take more, but they did want the board to know that they did come into that money that they were not expecting.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I'm willing to hear other options for spending of the money or rolling it over. This is kind of off topic, but like I was hearing about some communities were building workforce housing for staff that they're unable to keep. Mainly it was like the sheriff in this particular town. I think it was Snowmass. I mean, be really cool to come up with a way to use some of that money for down payment on something like that. But anyway, I'm up for another discussion session, brainstorm session. Again, I'd like to keep talking about that.
So, I mean, not to cut off the other trustees, but that's at least two trustees who'd like to hear the discussion. So I think we should just go ahead and say, yeah, let's bring this as an item on the agenda on the 21st. Other trustees who I didn't get to, no offense, but feel free to speak up if you want to weigh in on this right now.
I'm totally in favor of that. This is Trustee Danforth.
You can bring it back, and it'd be nice to hear other ideas.
All right. Yeah, not to hurry things, but we do have two other big discussion items here, and we are rapidly approaching the 10 o'clock hour. So we'll bring this back on the meeting for the 21st and look at those other options and talk about how we want to spend the remaining funds from ARPA. We'll move on to that next discussion item, but before we do, I'd like to see if we have a motion to extend the meeting to 10:30.
I move to extend the meeting to 10:30.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Let's bring Macy off of mute again so she can call the roll or call the vote on the meeting extension.
All right, Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Act,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
and Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
All right, meetings extend. So we're going to dive into an update report from two of our own here with regards to the status of our IGA agreement with Boulder County. Julian and Eric, thank you so much for taking this on and taking these meetings, and I will let you take this away.
Well, if Trustee Coombs Esmail and I were all present, we'd Rochambeau for who starts, but I'm perfectly happy to let Trustee Coombs Esmail start.
Yeah, we met with representatives from Boulder County, Trustee Taylor and I, to discuss the IGA, and really it was I think, quite a amenable conversation. I think Trustee Taylor will agree. It was pretty easy going. I don't think that there are any outstanding obstacles or barriers to any of the pathways that this board may choose to pursue when it comes to the expiration of the IGA in March 2022. The probably the biggest barrier, if it could be described as such, is time. I think that we are really in a crunch, and the county is very unwilling to commit to making a decision by March 2022, which I think is to be expected. They suggested a re-up on a temporary basis of the current IGA in order to negotiate any proposed revised IGA, if such revisions were to be desired by the Nederland BOT. I very much, and Trustee Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I very much got the sense that Boulder County was not looking to stand in our way on most of the provisions in the draft revision of the IGA, but rather they were keen for Nederland as a town and as a community to sort of determine what pathway we want to take, and they would do their best to support us on that path, whatever it might be. So I think from that conversation, it seemed clear, at least to me, that we need to come to some sort of, if not consensus, some kind of go through some democratic process to determine how we want to proceed from here, what the goal for Nederland is in those conversations, and that once we enter into any kind of negotiation with the county, I don't foresee there being significant obstacles, other than maybe one or two parcels, which will have some probably limitations that they will suggest that we might come back and make a counteroffer to, and then the conversation will proceed from there. But I don't think Boulder County is standing in our way on this.
Thank you, Trustee Coombs Esmail. I agree with Trustee Coombs Esmail entirely. It was a very amicable discussion. They seemed entirely open to our proposing annexation of various areas. And it seemed to me, and I was not there, of course, but I did talk to a few people who were there for the original IGA. And it seems to me that at the time, their biggest concern, the county's biggest concern, was that Nederland had not put together a solid plan as a proposal. And I think as Trustee Coombs Esmail said, I think what we need to do is begin to engage a democratic process within Nederland to see if we can put together a proposal that is generally acceptable to the Nederland residents and is also detailed enough that we're literally drawing the lines that say this is what we're talking about on this map and this is how far we want to go. So yeah, it was a good meeting, and I'm looking forward to constructive meetings in the future. But I think while those discussions are important, we also need to begin a discussion within Nederland regarding what the town wants to set forth as our proposal into that IGA.
Has there been, I guess my question would kind of be, how do we go about, as a board, extending this? I mean, this is a discussion item this evening, and I think it should remain a discussion item this evening. I'll put that out there. So, if we wanted to bring forward the idea of an extension, is that something you guys are thinking we need to do that our next meeting? Is that something in January, along with a proposed outreach plan, like meetings and some way for these having gone through this for 2 years, spent 2 years trying to negotiate some of this and holding a ton of public meetings, I'm curious if there's an idea on sort of how that's all going to come together, or if you guys discuss that at all with the county.
So I did sort of, we indicated, I think both of us did in one way or another, that if there were to be an extension of the current IGA, that it should come along with a clear memorandum of understanding as to what the timeline would be in terms of negotiating with the county. Now, obviously, I think we need to make a decision as a board whether or not to extend. We obviously don't have to. We can allow it to lapse. And if that's the board's decision, then that's the board's decision. We can still negotiate a revised IGA without an IGA in place. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. In fact, it may be the best option. I'm not sure. I think we need to have that conversation. I don't think, this me speaking personally, it seems to me that the BOT should make that decision at least of how we're going to address the expiry of the upcoming IGA in March 2022. Whether we're going to go for an extension during public process and negotiations or not. I think that is well within our kind of remit and purview to make that choice as a BOT. Whether or not the revision to the IGA is, whether or not the IGA is revised, and whether or not the revision includes provisions for annexation should probably continue as part of a public process, but that will be within a very, I think, should be within a very strict timeline that is governed by a memorandum of understanding with the county.
And I agree with Trustee Coombs-Esmail. I would leave it, though, to Miranda and Attorney Madsen to correct us if we're going off the rails somewhere. I agree with Trustee Coombs-Esmail that what we're doing is simply extending the status quo. Were there some amendment, then we've got a lot more we have to do. But to simply extend the status quo, I think that is within the purview of the BOT to do. And I also agree with Trustee Coombs-Esmail that if this lapses, there are no big there are no big downsides. If this IGA lapses, we are kind of continuing the way we've always continued. Several towns in the Boulder County, within Boulder County, allowed their IGAs to lapse, some intentionally, some not. None of them blew up. And we're probably in pretty good shape from that standpoint. So I think it is very much a question before the BOT to decide if they want to continue the status quo in a formal manner, or if they want to continue the status quo in an informal manner by allowing it to lapse while still sincerely working toward a new IGA.
Yeah, and I just to jump in, I think for the board to know that if there was that formal manner, the Boulder County would draft an MOU or some type of agreement with their attorneys. Of course, we'd have Jennifer Madsen review it, but that would come back before the board for formal approval prior to expiration in March.
Thank you, Miranda. I just now remembered that. Yes, you're right. That the MOU was discussed. But I'm old.
So as we start to talk amongst this ourselves this evening in the hour we have left, we're really looking for board members to weigh in on whether they're looking to extend or not, right? I think, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I do think it would be beneficial for the board to have a work session or executive session around that particular decision rather than attempting to come to some kind of consensus right here and now.
I agree.
Okay. And is that, I know in the past when we've done this, we've done it both as work sessions and as executive sessions to sort of discuss negotiating parameters. Miranda and Jennifer, do you guys have an opinion on whether at this point it needs to be in an executive session?
I think we had felt like a work session would be good, and that this might be a great opportunity for Attorney Madsen to educate the board on just kind of the ins and outs of annexation in itself, and just to make sure there's a full understanding of that process.
And I know we have on the calendar a work session a week from now, but I believe we already have topics for that.
We have parking. I did talk with Attorney Madsen today. I mean, if the board was open, we could talk parking and the IGA, or hold it, but I don't think it's a great idea to push it out any further. I think trying to meet in December is a good idea. I mean, the alternative is
certainly,
that Trustee Danforth and Trustee Corvallin were open to pushing out parking.
I mean, my personal feeling is that, you know, even if we were to extend this IGA to next December, we are under time crunch for really getting started on a public process and adoption of an IGA, just from past experience. So I would certainly not want us to push this work session out even into January personally. But that's my view from past experience. So I'd like to hear other trustees as well.
I mean, I would be open to a long working session. We could certainly put this on the agenda for the long working session, and if it doesn't work out, then table it until the next week and make it a working session before the next meeting.
Well, I mean, we could also postpone parking too. I mean,
Yeah,
don't know.
I was about to ask, Tanya, you and Lindsay had a meeting earlier, and so you'd be open to postponing the parking and putting, you know, kind of giving a higher precedence to the IGA?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine with me.
Lindsay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yes, I'm okay with that.
So maybe we make this the focus of a work session next week. And perhaps we leave parking on as a second agenda item for that work session. Should we get to this and discover, hey, we're all in agreement. There's not really, you know, that much to discuss right now.
I mean, we were ready to go with materials, and I think I agree with Trustee Danforth and Trustee Corvallin. If we get to it, great, and if not, we can postpone.
I have a couple questions about the current topic. It sounds like Eric was saying that letting it expire and renewing it till December really don't have much different consequences for the town of Nederland.
Well, from my perspective, they don't have functional consequences per se, but from my perspective, if we want to maintain kind of goodwill working relationship with the county, then we would renew.
And if we
renew for a time limited period of time.
If we renew, it's how it is. Nothing changes.
Right, for a short amount of time, only during the negotiation process. I did get the sense that the county was very reticent to kind of admit that we could even let it lapse. They certainly don't want any towns to be operating without an IGA with them. So I think if we do that, it's more of a either a last resort measure when we're in terms of negotiation, or it's because we determined that it is in fact the best thing for Nederland, right, to let it lapse. And if that is the determination, I think that we should let it lapse. But fundamentally, right now, I think it's about our relationship with the county on whether or not we extend it for a time limited duration.
And if we let it lapse, does that mean there is no negotiation and we can annex to our heart's desire and like that? Is that what that
to our heart's desire, but under state statute.
There's still rules.
Right.
And I agree.
I agree we talk about it. That was something they were saying, like have Jennifer Madsen give us an overview of what state annexation rules look like.
It sounds like, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to let it lapse if we can all just agree. So I'm just trying to understand and then I had another, I mean, I don't know if we should ask questions now or we're just gonna wait till next week.
Your call.
I don't care. But
depends on the type of question, right?
Because it's in my head. The whole point of us wanting to renew it and change it is because we have ultimate goals of annexation, namely Bobcat Ridge. Is that the ultimate goal? And that's what we need to vet with the public.
It was a 20-year agreement. It's lapsing. So we can choose to renegotiate it, we can choose to re-up it, or we can choose to let it lapse.
Right. But it sounds like from what I'm reading in these documents that Bobcat Ridge is the priority for wanting to renegotiate.
That is one of several properties that came to the town over the last few years looking at annexation. Bobcat Ridge is certainly the largest and most significant of the properties, but there were several others who expressed an interest in being annexed to the town for one reason or another.
Well, because of that, before we have a meeting, I don't know if that happens in this work session or the final one, I would like Town Works to create some sort of document that actually can show that they have the access to give water and sewage to that development. Because it's in the thing that I clicked, it said that Town Works has no problem fulfilling that commitment. And from past conversations that we've had with budget and whatnot, with sewer and water, and that Big Springs is going to cost millions of dollars to bring sewage there and blah, 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 blah. I'd like to hear from Chris Pelletier or somebody from Town Works how they think that would affect the budget for Town Works to add that in, and what the cost would be to Bobcat Ridge and all that. That's probably not in this work session, but that would be in the
Good
future.
information to have.
Yeah, because I just to say like, oh, we've got adequate coverage, no problem. When we're talking about like 200, whatever it is, 100 houses, you know, I wonder, you know. So
Okay.
that's it. I'm looking forward to the work session, I guess. I personally, at this moment, don't see why we wouldn't just give ourselves more time till December to really talk about it, since March seems really rushed. And it sounds like Boulder doesn't have the time to deal with it before March anyway. Is that kind of what you guys got from your conversation?
They're wanting to go into details, and I think they're seeing kind of a meeting per detail. So yeah, I think that's what the formal negotiations are going to look like. And I too favor the formal renewal of the IGA. But yeah, as Trustee Coombs Esmail said, renewing the IGA is really more an act of good faith.
Sure.
To simplify the negotiations.
I definitely favor extending the current IGA while we have discussions. And I think Tanya's brought up some very good points in terms of, you know, costs, and that's something we'll get to. And, you know, having gone through this previously, with a couple of years the mayor spent on it too, we had people who wanted to be annexed. We had a lot of opposition to annexation, and we had a lot of input. And, you know, I do think when you're talking about major annexations, and this we all talk about in the work session, we need to put it to a vote of the people if it's major. And it's something we talked about as a board last time around, but that's kind of getting ahead of the conversation. But in any case, I look forward to the work session. I do think we should extend the agreement, but we can discuss that further next week.
Okay. Jonathan, Lindsay, do you guys have anything you'd like to weigh in? I haven't heard much from you two.
I guess just I'm more working forward to the work session. I guess some food for thought here. This is a 20-year agreement. It has to do with land use. While I fundamentally agree that IGAs are necessary and really necessary in this area in particular, I also recognize that when we're using the word negotiation, we are talking about this being a negotiation between the town of Nederland, a small municipality, and Boulder County, a pretty wealthy county. So the idea of us extending this IGA as an act of good faith to the county doesn't actually make much sense to me. We have similar interests. We have similar goals. We are eventually going to restate an IGA with Boulder County. If we extend this one during negotiations, then they can hold us out in negotiations for as long as possible. If we do not extend this one, then we hold the power in those negotiations, and we're not trying to amend something that is already existent. We are actually creating a new IGA. I think that there are a lot of good elements to this current IGA that has existed for the last 20 years, and I think there are a lot of really, really poor elements. The idea of extending this just so we have time to negotiate it doesn't actually make much sense to me, just from a negotiation standpoint. We would want to have the upper hand in this situation, which means that we should let this lapse. We should engage in conversations, but that's a discussion, I believe, as Eric said, for the work session of what is in Nederland's best interest. I personally don't always feel that what Boulder County says to us is actually what they follow through with. And I don't always feel that the commissioners or the county does have that positive a relationship with the town of Nederland. I think there are many positives, but I think there could go a long way in having an equitable relationship, not as us begging Boulder County.
Thank you, Jonathan. Lindsay?
Yeah, I think, you know, I spent a long time debating the IGA when I was on the Planning Commission, and that was hard. I mean, it was a really hard thing. We had a lot of meetings, a lot of long discussions, and you know, this has the potential to go on for a long time, or we can build on our previous discussions and previous meetings and try to negotiate a better IGA for us. I'm not sure at this moment if I want to let it lapse or if I want to extend. I'm not sure what the best course of action there is, but I do think we need to take some action to get a new IGA.
Thank you, Lindsay. This will obviously be a big discussion item at that meeting, work session 1 week from tonight. But it is a discussion item this evening, and so I will open the floor up to public comment and also encourage anyone who has stuck with us, through 3.5 hours here. If you have thoughts on the IGA, please email us. In the next week prior to the work session, email is a great way to reach all of us with your thoughts. And otherwise, now is another opportunity to speak up, catch our attention, and you can have 3 minutes to discuss, what you've heard from us or weigh in on what you'd like us to consider during the upcoming work session.
I would like to speak. This is Kayla Evans.
Kayla, please, the floor is yours.
Kayla Evans, 1250 Eldora Road. Obviously, everyone here knows that I'm representing Bobcat Ridge, and I have been dealing with Boulder County for approximately 10 years on this project. I'm so thankful to Karen and Chris and now Eric and Julian for continuing the conversations with Boulder County for the process of annexation. I think people who don't want annexation in town, I do understand. I don't agree. I do understand. We have an idea of Nederland being this small, wonderful, funky, weird, great little town that we all live in, but we are feeling external and internal forces that are really putting a lot of demands on us. And when you think about making rulings for this town, I hope you look at this particular one with it being where do we want to be and where can we be, where should we be in 20 years. I certainly think what's happened in our population in the last 5 has given us huge reason to look at the ability to annex. A lot of people, I think there's too much misinformation out there for a lot of people who shut the door on conversation to understand what this process is about. The idea of annexing or having the ability to negotiate that with Boulder County does not necessarily mean that you're going to annex Bobcat Ridge. It just says the town of Nederland now has the ability to make these decisions and not have them imposed upon us by the county, and that we are the captains of our own destiny. And so we are just part of the process. We are not the end game. I mean, the end game is hopefully for us that we will be annexed, that you will allow us to do all of the things that this project has proposed and wants to contribute to the community. But the idea, we're talking 2 different things. We're, cart before the horse. And so when you go into your negotiations and when you talk about annexation, please understand that you are talking about a process and not necessarily my project. which is not just the only project in town that wants to be annexed to the community. Let's talk about your fears and eliminate them. Let's talk about the things that you would like to do and make positive improvements on these things. But please understand that there is a process, and that, you know, if anybody knows that the county can stall, it's me. I've been working on this project, as you know, some of you, for almost 10 years now. And it has been because of the way the county approaches giving anything up. So I think I've gone over my 3 minutes.
That's your 3 minutes.
I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Anyone else? Other members of the public?
This is Dawn Baumhover, Nederland resident. I would like to speak to Kayla's point that the process is not the end result. And personally, I would like to be afforded the opportunity to continue to live in this community. And developments like Bobcat Ridge might afford that opportunity. Other decisions board recently have, this is becoming a gentrified community, and the opportunity to age in place is quickly going away. So I would like the board to consider what they actually say are their values and against the values that they vote on, and extending the IGA or letting it lapse and putting us, Nederland, in a position to negotiate in a power position, I believe would be wise. So I'm watching this community change, and I would love to see the board be brave. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Other members of the public like to speak? Not seeing or hearing.
Hi, can you hear?
I'm hearing like 1 word and 3. If you're a call-in user, remember to *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great. Kathleen Chip-I, 30-year Magnolia resident, 18-year business owner. I want to second what has just been said by Jonathan, Dawn, Kayla. I don't trust the county. The county just screwed the residents of unincorporated Boulder County and Gilpin County on the 1041 permitting process on Gross Reservoir expansion. I don't trust the county. It's as simple as that. I think that this should expire. I think that there's a lot of people that I know have told me over the years they wanted it to expire who are not at this meeting, and I don't think any decisions should be made without some way more public discussion on what's going on here. And I do hope that the BOT do what Dawn said and be bold, and think about having the upper hand in a renegotiation. So I'm for the expiration of the IGA, and for reasons that I don't trust the county, and we have very recent proof that clearly we cannot be trusted because of what she just did with Gross Reservoir. And I'm disappointed that none of the Board of Trustees brought that up when she was at the meeting about redistricting. Nobody mentioned it whatsoever to her, and I'm not happy with her at all. That's my end of my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Anyone else? Not hearing any. I'll bring this back to the board. I think we have a good starting point for a work session next Tuesday night. Miranda, did you need anything else from the Board of Trustees in preparation for that?
No, I think you should all already have that WebEx calendar invite, and we'll send out an agenda packet. There may be some annexation material Attorney Madsen wants to provide, so I'll work with her to pull that agenda packet together with Macy.
Can I just ask before we end this conversation that when it comes to annexation under state laws, if we could get a good sense of the timeline that would, what that would look like timeline wise, like how fast can that process be done according to state statute?
Yeah, I think it'll be good. All right.
Bring back that utility information that Tanya was looking for.
Yep. All right. Well, we will move on. We have one final discussion item this evening. So in preparation for that, I will once again ask, do we have a motion to extend the meeting to 11 p.m.?
No.
We have 6 minutes to discuss this. Jennifer, do you want to quickly introduce this, and then we can decide if we want to extend again as we get closer?
I will do that, yes. Well, I have a PowerPoint. Maybe I'll skip the PowerPoint. But the material in your packet, the AIM, I think is pretty self-explanatory in terms of what 1041 regulations are. It's really an overview because the regulations can be very detailed. The process can be in depth. But the purpose of 1041 regulations generally would be to give the town some authority to weigh in on matters that the town wouldn't otherwise have authority to weigh in. And those would be matters that are areas of state concern. Those were laid out also in the agenda item. So I will stop it there, see if anybody has any questions.
I can start out here because I saw somewhere in there, if the town were to enact 1041 regulations on a project or something happening outside of town boundaries, it sounded like from your description that the town then supersedes or takes over for the state. So if we were to say change, say something about water pollution, does the state then have no say on it and it all falls on the town to do it?
No, no, that's not entirely accurate. And the first process in deciding that you would want to go forward with 1041 regulations is either designating an activity of state interest, which is an area of land,
yep,
areas of state interest or activities, and those are within the jurisdiction. So activities of state interest that are in the jurisdiction of Nederland.
Okay.
So within town boundaries.
So it would be something like the pollution in a creek that's running through town or the impact of traffic on town?
Yes. Yes, but it would need to fit within those categories.
Right.
So for example, one category. Right, the mineral resource area is a category, but the mineral resource area, the map that you draw, would need to be within town boundaries.
The fact that we can now conduct nuclear detonations leads me to move to extend the meeting to 10:45.
We have a motion to extend. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second and an opportunity to bring Macy off of mute to call the vote to extend.
All right.
Thank you.
Mayor Larson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Trustee Apt?
No.
Trustee Danforth?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover?
Based upon Julian's humorful motion to extend, I'll say yes.
And Trustee Corvallin?
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yeah, he got me too. Yes.
All right, most to extent. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who noticed that somehow the state had say over nuclear explosions in our area. But all right, so back to you, Jennifer.
Well, so I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, so I mean, can we just kind of discuss what we all know we're discussing about, and instead of talking around it, this has to do with the increased activity at the Caribou and Cross mines, and their cease and desist notice of violation of pollution into Coon Track Creek and North Boulder Creek, or North Beaver Creek, excuse me. That's what we're talking about. Obviously, all of that lies 4 to 5 miles away from town. There is in no way or shape that we can say the mineral extraction intersects town jurisdiction, except in the fact that that creek flows through town, and except the fact that any trucks full of ore that they're moving out of the mine pass through town. How does that work with 1041? Or is the alternative that you suggested, the watershed protection ordinance, more the direction we need to be looking?
I think, and I don't know the specifics of all of this, but I think the watershed protection ordinance would probably be a better regulatory option related to that specific issue.
And does it matter then that the fact is that technically, I mean, obviously that creek runs through town, but the town's drinking water and everyone within town relies on water from a separate watershed? Does that, because I mean, our water all comes from one valley over, where the impact of this mine is not seen. But
Right.
that creek runs through town. Our dogs, I'm assuming, drink from that creek. There's an impact on town residents, just not in town utilities.
I would almost wonder if there is not an impact to citizens of the town who use groundwater, who drill wells. I'm not positive that they're not isolated from that contamination.
We might be
And
able
didn't
to.
we just
Go ahead.
didn't we just approve somebody in town to have a well?
Yes.
One valley over from this. It's on the other side of the hill, more on the Eldora side than the Caribou side.
Yeah, I'm not clear enough on exactly how the underground water flows in this area. So I'm not positive I have a good enough understanding of how that contamination could migrate. And it could well be that we are entirely isolated from it. But it would be an interesting presentation to have from our town hydrologist, our water attorney, see what he says.
So I guess, I mean, the question is, obviously the question to you, Miranda, is the town, there is certainly, I've heard it from residents, I think a lot of us have concern about what's happening. It's outside of town limits. We've heard of ideas or possible regulatory approaches in which the town could have some say, the 1041, the watershed protection. Are any of those even options?
I think that's exactly the challenge, is there the impact on town is, I don't want to say non-existent, but it's minimal. And so with this specific example being the mine, I'm not sure as staff we feel like this is kind of worth pursuing. But where like 1041 regulations are truly beneficial is when there's CDOT work being done, and we all know what that experience is like on the highway when they don't notify us, but yet we deal with the impact. There could be some benefit there, but I'm not so sure with the mine. This may not make sense.
So
I think the watershed ordinance could be an option. It's just something that we would need to further explore. Gather more information.
Yeah, so it can't be tied to the potential impact of, the ore being transported through town. That's just kind of considered outside our purview.
Well, it's that in terms of the 1041 regulations, we just don't have enforcement authority on the activity which is going on outside of our boundaries.
Okay. So, I mean, clearly this would be something 1041 well, I mean, 1041 regulations wouldn't be necessary for the county to approach, but other communities that are like, well, let's put ourselves in the shoes of Boulder, city of Boulder, since it is clearly within their drinking watershed. Then the 1041. I'm just trying to wrap my head around where 1041, because we've all heard of this with the Gross Reservoir and the fact that the county was claiming rights through 1041. I'm trying to figure out how this works. So is it something like the city of Boulder could claim 1041 regulations on this mine because it is clearly within their watershed?
Yes. Yeah, and
Okay.
it's in the county, right? I mean, that's the
Well,
location
I'm
of the
saying city
mine
of Boulder. I'm saying
in
the
the
city
county.
of Boulder. Well, I'm saying city of Boulder could do that because it's their watershed and directly affecting
Yes.
their drinking water.
Well,
Obviously, the county has a lot of say because it's in the county.
the city of Boulder could actually do the watershed ordinance.
These are
Clearly
two
could do the
separate things,
watershed.
right?
Right. The city
One
of
is
Boulder
1041, one is the watershed.
exactly correct. Yes. So the city of Boulder could adopt a watershed ordinance. I don't know if they have one. The county could enforce its 1041 regulations. Now, I don't know. I understand that there may be some additional construction related to the mine, additional mine being constructed. That's when the county would step up and request or require a 1041 permit.
But again, no matter, there's no real standing for the town to have any say in if the mine chooses to drop another 10 shafts and order of magnitude more processing. Whatever the scale of it is, we don't have any say or any voice in that conversation.
Again, I would go back to the watershed ordinance and say that we'd need to do some additional research.
Okay.
If it works into our watershed, then we have standing. But if it doesn't, if they're that isolated, then we don't have standing. We have to count on Boulder to stand up for their rights in this area.
Right.
And then also the question is what counts as our watershed? I mean, does it have to directly affect our drinking supply? Can it simply be within like what counts as a watershed?
It's going into Parker where we store all our water rights. Even though we know we don't draw from it, does that give us legal standing?
That could count.
Or our watersheds under the ground where people are growing food, and that would impact the food.
I suggested that this be part of the discussion with the county, because frankly, I think the county dropped the ball on this mine, as did the state. And I think it should be, our intergovernmental agreement is about land use. Well, it should be also major industrial use in the county near the town of Nederland should be part of this discussion, which is what this mine is. And we were completely left out of the process whereby they approved all these uses up there, including a mill that will process a lot more ore on site. I don't know of anybody in Nederland that even knew the mine had been approved at 70,000 tons a year. So I think it's a lack of public process from one of the agencies that has jurisdiction over this industrial site that's very close to us. But I do like the idea of exploring the watershed ordinance regardless.
So our current discussion is about the 1041 regulations, and it sounds to me like whether it relates to the cross mine or not, there may be some value to the town in reviewing this ordinance and adopting it. And yet we're close to time to adjourn. And I would personally like to see this discussed further, and I'd like to see Attorney Madsen's presentation at a later time.
And particularly, I'd like to see a little more into what the watershed protection ordinance, because I do think that has a more clear, direct impact on the town of Nederland.
Right.
For the reasons Tanya brought up with, local agriculture or, gardens to potentially the hydrology of the region where that may intersect
Absolutely.
surface some of the remaining wells in town.
But I also think that we will want to keep 1041 separate from the watershed regulation. And so we can discuss both of them based upon their merits and not based upon a more general goal. I think the water, we can determine in discussing each one based upon its merits, whether it applies to the cross mine or whether it applies more importantly to how we negotiate with Boulder County regarding county roads, regarding highways going through the town, that sort of thing. So yeah, I would like to see these brought back, but I would also like to move to adjourn soon.
Well, I want to just before we do that, this is a discussion item. I want to throw the floor open to any members of the public who have hung out because I do recognize some names on our screen that might have something they'd like to say. So if anyone from the public would like to weigh in on what you've heard us talking with regards to 1041 or watershed protection ordinances, now would be your opportunity. Catch our attention, and you can have up to 3 minutes.
Hi, John Scarr from the Mountaineer.
Yeah, John.
It's important for y'all to realize that the Mining Reclamation Board has a meeting on Wednesday to review all this, and they may come up with some conversations that you're not familiar with at this time.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. The Mine Reclamation Board is meeting next week. It is you can dial in and you can watch it via their Zoom, your YouTube, Zoom, or any interactive part of that is restricted to basically the board and the mine, but all of us are welcome to listen in via their YouTube channel and would encourage people to do so. Anyone else from the public like to speak on this?
Kathleen Chipai had emailed a comment. It says, Kathleen Chipai, I am against adopting the 1041 regulation.
Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in? I'll bring this back to the board. As Julian said, he'd like to see this come back before us for further discussion. Other trustees, if you're interested in that, either speak up now or let Miranda and I know so we know we have at least 2 trustees interested in such a thing. Otherwise, we can quickly look at other business, or if Julian would like to jump straight in there.
I definitely support bringing this back and discussing it further.
Okay, we'll work on slotting it into a future agenda, not at 10:40 p.m.
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion on the table.
I'll second that.
And a second. Macy, you're on again.
All right, Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
Trustee Apt,
Yes.
Trustee Danforth, Mayor Pro Tem Baumhover,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
and Trustee Coombs-Mao.
Yes.
Okay.
10:42, the meeting is adjourned.
I look forward to discussing nuclear detonations in a nearby meeting.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.